The air was thick with anticipation, a quiet hum of nervous energy running through the crowded courtroom. The walls, lined with tall windows, allowed the morning sun to pierce through, casting long shadows over the faces of those waiting. The judge's gavel had barely made a sound, but the tension in the room was already palpable. This wasn't just another trial, this was a battle that could alter the course of one of the most powerful figures in the world. Elon Musk sat at the defendant's table, his usual confidence replaced with a rare, almost imperceptible sense of unease. His eyes scanned the room, meeting the gaze of his legal team, his close friends, and the handful of reporters scribbling in their notebooks. But today, he wasn't the man everyone was used to seeing on stage at a Tesla event, or tweeting out his latest vision for the future. No, today he was fighting for his freedom, his empire, and his reputation. As the judge, a stern woman in her late 50s with a reputation for being unforgiving, began to speak, a hushed silence fell over the room. "Mr. Musk," she said, her voice cutting through the air like a blade, "we are here today to determine the consequences of your actions. You stand accused of breaching fiduciary duties, causing significant harm to investors, and, quite frankly, endangering the very industry you claim to lead. What do you have to say for yourself?" Musk shifted in his seat, the weight of the room pressing down on him. His usual sharp wit and defiant attitude were hidden behind a mask of controlled composure. He wasn't the first to face a courtroom battle, but this was different. This trial felt more personal than anything he had experienced before. He could feel the eyes of the world on him, waiting for him to crack. But he wouldn't. At least, he couldn't afford to. "Your Honor," Musk began, his voice steady but carrying a hint of the frustration that had been simmering beneath the surface for weeks, "I've spent my life working to create a future where humanity thrives, not just survives. I have put everything I have into making sure that we become a multiplanetary species, and that we revolutionize how we drive, how we power our homes, and how we interact with the world. If that vision is a threat to some, I won't apologize for it. But I can assure you, the actions I've taken were always with the best interests of humanity in mind." He paused, allowing his words to hang in the air, before continuing, "I've made mistakes, of course. I'm human. But I will not stand by and let this trial be about punishing innovation, punishing the progress we've made." The judge narrowed her eyes, clearly unimpressed. "Progress doesn't come at the cost of responsibility, Mr. Musk. The people you're accused of wronging put their trust in you. And they expect results." Musk's eyes flickered for a moment, an almost imperceptible shift in his demeanor. His mind raced, weighing the possible consequences of this trial. If he lost, not only would his companies suffer, but his entire legacy could be shattered. He had built everything from the ground up, faced ridicule, uncertainty, and countless obstacles to get to where he was. And now, it seemed like the world was ready to bring it all crashing down. A single question lingered in his mind: how did it come to this? The courtroom murmured as the judge proceeded to lay out the accusations. There were allegations of misleading investors, claims of financial mismanagement, and the assertion that Musk's public persona and volatile behavior had damaged Tesla's stock value more than once. The case had been building for months, fueled by his infamous tweets, his sometimes erratic behavior, and the ongoing scrutiny of his role as CEO. And then, there was the tweet, the one that had started it all. "AM considering taking Tesla private at $420. Funding secured." That tweet, sent in the middle of a Thursday afternoon, had sent shockwaves through Wall Street. What Musk had intended as a casual update had ignited a firestorm. It triggered investigations, legal battles, and forced Musk to step down as chairman of Tesla for a time, although he retained his CEO position. The fallout from that moment had been massive, and now, he was facing the consequences. The trial had been brewing for months, but the moment Musk had stepped into the courtroom that morning, he had known that the stakes were higher than anything he had ever faced before. The judge's voice broke through his thoughts. "The court will now hear from the prosecution." Musk leaned back in his chair as a man in a sharp suit stood up across the room. He was tall, his posture rigid, and his expression stone-cold. The prosecutor had been building his case for weeks, and Musk had no illusions about the fight ahead. "Ladies and gentlemen of the court," the prosecutor began, "we are here today because of the reckless actions of one man. Elon Musk has shown a complete disregard for the rules that govern public companies. His words and actions have not only jeopardized the financial security of countless investors but have also endangered the very companies he claims to lead." The prosecutor's voice grew more forceful with each word. "Mr. Musk's behavior is not that of a leader, it is that of a man who believes he is above the law. And today, we will prove that his actions have caused immeasurable harm." Musk clenched his jaw, feeling the weight of the prosecution's words, but he refused to let them shake him. He had prepared for this. He knew the trial would get ugly, but he also knew that he couldn't let this system break him. He was used to battles, both personal and professional. This was just another fight, and he was determined to win. The prosecutor continued, outlining the various ways in which Musk had supposedly undermined his own company and its investors. He spoke of Tesla's fluctuating stock price, of Musk's infamous behavior on social media, and the constant drama that surrounded him. He painted a picture of a man who was reckless, impulsive, and out of control. But Musk wasn't going to give in. As the prosecutor's words lingered in the air, Musk took a deep breath, mentally preparing for what came next. He knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous. But the one thing he couldn't afford to do was back down. And then, as if on cue, the judge's voice cut through the tension. "Mr. Musk," she said, "I trust you understand the gravity of this situation. The world is watching. You will have your chance to respond. But be warned, this court will not tolerate further defiance." Musk stood up, his mind still racing, but he knew that the time had come. This wasn't just about winning or losing, this was about something much bigger than him. This was about proving that even the most powerful forces could be challenged. He cleared his throat, his voice calm but firm, as he prepared to speak. "Your Honor," he began, "I'm here to fight, not just for my companies, but for the future we're all trying to build. I'll be damned if I let anyone tell me that we should stop reaching for the stars. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" Elon Musk wasn't always the man everyone knew today, the billionaire CEO, the pioneer, the man who made headlines on a daily basis. No, there was a time when his life was far from the glossy image portrayed in the media. In fact, there was a time when he was just a kid with big dreams, navigating through life's harshest lessons. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, Musk's childhood was marked by both brilliance and isolation. His father, Errol Musk, was a successful engineer, but also a complicated and often distant figure in Elon's life. Elon's mother, May, was a model and dietitian, but she was often overwhelmed with raising 3 children, trying to balance her career with her family obligations. Elon, from a young age, was different from his peers. He was always the quiet one, preferring books over sports, technology over social events. It wasn't that he didn't try to fit in, he just didn't know how. He often found himself bullied at school. The other kids picked on him for his quiet nature, his awkwardness, and most notably, his love for science and technology. He wasn't just a shy child, he was a child who didn't quite belong. The bullying got so bad that one day, during a particularly brutal encounter, Elon was shoved down a flight of stairs, leaving him bruised and battered. It was in moments like that, he later recalled, when he started to retreat into the world of his own mind, a place where he could control his destiny, a place where his imagination could run wild. But there was something else that shaped him, something that would fuel his fire for years to come. Despite his isolation, Elon had a deep sense of curiosity. A deep desire to understand the world, to change it, to leave an indelible mark. As a teenager, he devoured books on physics, computer science, and engineering. By the age of 12, he had already taught himself how to program, creating and selling a video game called Blaster for $500. He was already on a path towards something bigger, he just hadn't figured out what that something was. At 17, Musk left South Africa for Canada, seeking a better future. It was there that he attended Queen's University before transferring to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. It was in those early years that he began to see the future not just as a world of possibilities, but as a world that he could actually shape. At Penn, he studied both economics and physics, an unusual combination that would later serve him well as he built his empire. In 1995, after a brief stint at Stanford, Musk dropped out to pursue his entrepreneurial dreams. This decision, at the time, seemed reckless to many. He was leaving a prestigious institution for the unknown, without any guarantee of success. But Elon Musk had never been one to take the conventional route. His vision was too big to be contained by the four walls of academia. He wanted to build something that would change the world. And change it, he did. Musk's first major success came when he co-founded Zip2, a software company that provided business directories and maps for newspapers. The company was sold to Compaq for $307 million, netting Musk $22 million. But that was just the beginning. He could have taken his money, enjoyed a comfortable life, and left it at that. But Musk wasn't interested in comfort. He had bigger plans. Next, he founded X.com, an online payment company that later became PayPal. The company was sold to eBay in 2002 for $1.5 billion, with Musk walking away with $165 million. Again, he could have cashed out and relaxed. But for Musk, success wasn't about the money, it was about the impact he could make. The question wasn't how much wealth he could amass, it was how much change he could bring to the world. With that money, Musk set his sights on space. He founded SpaceX in 2002 with the aim of making space travel more affordable and accessible. Everyone thought he was crazy. No one believed that a small startup could challenge the giants of the aerospace industry. But Musk wasn't deterred. He believed that humanity's future was among the stars, and he was willing to risk everything to make that future a reality. Then came Tesla. In 2004, Musk joined Tesla Motors, now simply Tesla, as a major investor and chairman. At the time, electric cars were seen as impractical, niche products. Musk had a different vision. He believed that electric vehicles could be the future of transportation, that they could be both environmentally friendly and incredibly powerful. Over time, Musk took on the role of CEO, and under his leadership, Tesla transformed from a struggling startup to a global powerhouse, disrupting the automotive industry and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But success, especially the kind that Musk sought, doesn't come without sacrifice. His relentless drive often put him at odds with those closest to him. Musk's personal life was a series of ups and downs, multiple marriages, strained relationships with friends and colleagues, and a constant battle between his personal desires and professional obligations. Through it all, Musk kept pushing forward, unwilling to relent in his mission to change the world. He believed, as he often said, that failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. And that's where the trouble began. In 2018, Musk's personal brand took a hit. His infamous tweet, "AM considering taking Tesla private at $420. Funding secured," sent the markets into a frenzy. It was bold, it was unorthodox, and it was dangerous. Musk was hit with a lawsuit by the SEC, and although he later settled, the damage had been done. His credibility was questioned, and his erratic behavior only fueled the fire. Musk's social media posts were scrutinized, his business practices were questioned, and suddenly, the man who had once been seen as a visionary was being painted as reckless and unstable. But Musk wasn't one to back down. His passion for his companies, his desire to push humanity forward, and his belief that he could take on the impossible kept him in the game. Yet, here he was, sitting in a courtroom once again, about to face the consequences of his own actions. This wasn't just about the SEC, or a tweet gone wrong, this was about the very essence of who Elon Musk was. Was he a man who had pushed too far, or was he a visionary whose ambitions had simply outgrown the systems he was trying to change? As he looked around the courtroom, Musk couldn't help but think of the journey that had led him here. Every success, every failure, every breakthrough, and every setback had brought him to this moment. And now, standing in front of the judge, the media, and the world, Musk had to decide, would he let this trial define him, or would he rise above it, just as he had so many times before? He was about to find out. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as the judge called for a brief recess. Elon Musk stood, his back straight and his mind churning with the weight of what was unfolding around him. His legal team huddled in a tight circle, their faces drawn, but their demeanor professional. This was no ordinary trial, the eyes of the world were upon them, and every word spoken could tip the balance of an empire. Musk had been through his fair share of press conferences, board meetings, and negotiations, but this was something else. His usual confidence felt like it was slipping, replaced by the creeping reality of what was at stake. The world watched as Musk, once a hero of innovation, now faced the legal system, which threatened to dismantle the empire he had spent decades building. As his attorneys discussed strategy, Musk looked around the courtroom. He saw the reporters, the suits in the audience, and the distant, cold gaze of the judge. But what caught his attention were the faces of the investors seated near the back. Their expressions were a mix of skepticism, frustration, and anger. They were the ones who had entrusted him with their money, their trust, and their hopes for the future. And now, many of them were questioning whether he was fit to lead anything at all. The prosecution had painted Musk as reckless and impulsive. They had argued that his behavior, from the infamous tweet about taking Tesla private to his erratic social media posts, had caused significant harm to investors and shareholders. They claimed that his actions had misled the public, inflated Tesla's stock price, and put the company on an unstable foundation. And to make matters worse, they suggested that his ego and penchant for attention had led him to play fast and loose with the rules that govern public companies. Musk's lawyers, however, had painted a very different picture. They had argued that Musk was a visionary, a man whose ambition to change the world sometimes led to missteps, but whose ultimate goal was always to push humanity forward. They framed the tweet about taking Tesla private as a moment of honest ambition, one that was taken out of context. They argued that Musk had acted in good faith and that the accusations were a direct attack on his ability to lead, to innovate, and to pursue big ideas. But the tension in the courtroom was undeniable. The stakes had never been higher. As the recess ended, the room fell silent. Musk returned to his seat, his mind still racing. He knew that this was just the beginning, but the first few hours of the trial had already set the tone. He was up against some of the best legal minds in the country. And yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that this trial was less about the truth and more about dismantling everything he had built. The judge, who had maintained a stern, unyielding presence, called the proceedings back to order. She was no fan of Musk, and it was clear that she had little tolerance for theatrics. Her reputation for fairness was well known, but so was her tendency to come down hard on those she deemed to be above the law. "Mr. Musk," she began, her voice firm, "you have heard the charges against you. You've heard the arguments made by the prosecution. Now it's time for your side to present its case. Your legal team may proceed." Musk stood, feeling the weight of the moment. This was it. He had to convince the court, and the world, that he wasn't the reckless, arrogant billionaire the prosecution had painted him to be. He took a deep breath and walked toward the podium, his footsteps echoing in the otherwise silent courtroom. His legal team had prepared him for this moment, but no amount of preparation could replace the raw intensity of actually facing down his accusers in real time. "Elon Musk is not perfect," his attorney began, speaking with clarity and conviction. "But he is not a villain. He is a man who has risked everything to change the world. His vision for humanity's future has led to the creation of revolutionary technologies, like electric cars that have reshaped the automotive industry and a private space exploration company that is actively working toward making life multiplanetary. He is the architect of a future many thought was impossible." There was a pause as Musk's attorney let the words sink in. The courtroom was still, too still. Musk could feel every eye on him. His heart beat a little faster, but he refused to let the pressure overwhelm him. Mr. Musk may have made mistakes, but they were not crimes. His tweet, which has been so sensationalized, was an honest statement of intent. There was no fraud involved. No attempt to deceive. And no malice. It was simply a moment of ambition. A man wanting to push the boundaries of what was possible, as he has done time and time again. The prosecutor, who had been sitting quietly, took a sharp breath, clearly ready to respond. It was clear they weren't going to let Musk's defense go unchallenged. Honesty is no defense when the law is broken, the prosecutor interrupted. The defendant may have acted impulsively, but his words had consequences. Words that misled investors. Words that caused unnecessary volatility in the markets. Investors who had put their faith in Tesla, in his leadership, now find themselves facing huge losses. All because of a tweet. The tension in the courtroom escalated. Musk's eyes locked with the prosecutor for a brief moment. The two were opposites in every sense, Musk, a man of bold ideas and relentless ambition, and the prosecutor, a man of logic and restraint, determined to hold Musk accountable for his words. As the back and forth continued, Musk began to feel the weight of the world pressing on him once more. He had built his empire on the idea that failure was an option, that the greatest innovations often came from risks. But now, sitting in this courtroom, he was beginning to realize just how fragile the world he had built truly was. Every decision, every word, every tweet carried the potential for fallout. And today, that fallout was being weighed in front of the world. Musk knew the outcome of this trial could change everything. He had already sacrificed so much to get here, but it felt as though there was still so much more to lose. He was not just fighting for his freedom or his fortune, he was fighting for the very future he had envisioned. As the day wore on, the arguments grew more heated, but Musk remained quiet, listening carefully. The trial would take weeks, maybe months. But Musk knew one thing for certain, he wasn't just defending himself, he was defending everything he believed in. The stakes were rising, and with each passing moment, the courtroom felt more like a battleground. But as always, Musk was determined to fight until the very end. The following days of the trial felt like a blur to Elon Musk. The accusations from the prosecution were relentless. They painted him as a man who had let his ego overrule his responsibility to his investors, who had jeopardized the financial futures of thousands of people for the sake of his own personal ambitions. And each day, as the prosecutor's arguments became more fiery, the pressure mounted on Musk's shoulders. Despite the ever-growing tension, Musk's legal team remained calm and collected, methodically dismantling the prosecution's case. But the more they spoke, the clearer it became that this was no longer just about the truth of the infamous tweet, it was about something much larger, the future of Elon Musk, his companies, and the ideals he had worked tirelessly to bring to life. Musk spent his nights alone in his hotel room, surrounded by legal papers and briefings. He had spent the last decade of his life reshaping entire industries, and yet here he was, fighting to prove his worth in a courtroom. It felt like a cruel irony, his success had brought him to the top, but now his very ambition, his greatest strength, was under attack. He sat at the desk, staring at the empty glass of water in front of him. His mind raced with thoughts of his companies, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, the Boring Company, all of them were being put at risk because of one moment of impulsive ambition. He had always known that the road to changing the world would be difficult, but this was different. He thought back to his childhood in South Africa, the bullying, the sense of not belonging. It had all seemed so far away back then. He'd come a long way from that awkward, isolated kid. But now, in this moment, as he sat in his hotel room alone, Musk felt that same sense of loneliness creeping in. The world was watching, and the stakes were higher than ever. The question that kept echoing in his mind was this: had he gone too far this time? On the next day of the trial, the atmosphere was charged. It was clear that the courtroom was split, those who saw Musk as a visionary and those who viewed him as a reckless gambler. The media was in full swing, broadcasting every moment, every argument, every flicker of emotion from Musk's face. He knew the world was watching, but in that moment, he had to focus on the facts, on defending what he had built. The prosecution was back at it again, presenting the testimony of an expert witness who spoke about the impact of Musk's actions on the stock market. The expert's voice was steady, his words calculated, as he spoke about how Musk's tweet had led to a surge in Tesla's stock price, and how it had created volatility in the markets. According to the prosecution, Musk's tweet was the epitome of market manipulation, a direct attempt to mislead investors into thinking that Tesla was going private. Musk's actions, the expert testified, caused a ripple effect in the stock market, damaging investor trust in Tesla and creating an artificial bubble in the company's stock price. His words weren't just careless, they were a calculated move to boost the stock's value, which caused major losses for investors once the truth came out. Musk shifted in his seat, his fingers lightly drumming on the armrest. He had prepared for this testimony, but hearing the words spoken aloud made it feel all the more real. The attack was personal. The accusations were not just about his actions, they were an indictment of his entire approach to business, to risk, and to the very nature of innovation itself. His defense team was quick to respond. One of his lawyers stood up and called attention to the fundamental flaw in the prosecution's argument, the assumption that Musk had been attempting to deceive the market. They argued that Musk's words had been taken out of context, that he had been speaking in the heat of the moment, and that no one could prove he had intended to manipulate the stock price. Elon Musk's ambition is not the same as malice, the lawyer said firmly. He is a man who thinks in terms of changing the world. Sometimes, his enthusiasm spills over. But that does not make him a criminal. Musk's eyes flickered toward the jury. The tension in the room was palpable, as though the jury was waiting for something, waiting for the bombshell that would turn the tide of the trial. Musk knew what was coming next. His team was preparing to call on him to testify, and that moment would be pivotal. It wasn't just about defending himself against the charges, it was about defending the future he had worked so hard to create. The judge looked toward Musk, signaling that it was time for him to take the stand. The courtroom grew silent, and all eyes turned toward him. Musk stood, his tall frame casting a long shadow as he walked to the witness stand. He took a deep breath before sitting down, his palms sweating as he gripped the sides of the chair. He had faced interviews, speeches, and boardrooms full of the world's most powerful people. But this? This felt different. Mr. Musk, the defense attorney began, can you explain to the court your intentions behind the tweet that caused such a stir? Musk paused for a moment before responding, his voice measured but unwavering. I never intended to mislead anyone, Musk began. I was discussing a potential move that could have benefited Tesla and its shareholders. I didn't expect it to go viral the way it did. But the tweet was taken out of context, and the way it was interpreted was not what I intended. I wanted to express my ambition for the company, for the future of Tesla. The room was still as Musk spoke, his words hanging in the air. His gaze remained steady, and he spoke with a sense of purpose. I've always believed that failure is an option, he continued. I've always believed that the biggest breakthroughs come from taking risks. But those risks need to be calculated. I've never, ever made a decision with the intention to hurt my investors or to deceive anyone. Everything I do, everything I've built, is with the goal of advancing humanity, whether it's electric cars, space travel, or sustainable energy. I'm not perfect, but I believe in what I'm doing. His words seemed to resonate in the courtroom. The jury looked at him, their expressions softening, and for a moment, it felt as if they were beginning to understand. But just as quickly, the prosecution pounced, firing back with their own line of questioning. They didn't buy the narrative Musk was selling. Mr. Musk, the prosecutor said sharply, if you truly had no intent to mislead, then why did you fail to follow proper procedures before making such an important statement? Why didn't you consult with Tesla's board, or notify the SEC? Why didn't you have a plan in place? The questions came fast and furious, each one designed to make Musk appear reckless and negligent. Musk bristled, but he held his ground, answering each question with a clarity that surprised even his own team. The tension in the room grew, but Musk's focus remained sharp. It wasn't just his freedom on the line, it was everything he had worked for. The companies, the vision, the dream. And Musk knew that if he couldn't convince this courtroom, he might lose it all. As the day's proceedings drew to a close, Musk stepped down from the witness stand, his mind exhausted. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. But he knew one thing for certain, the battle had just begun, and he would fight until the very end. The next few days of the trial felt like a game of chess, each side calculating their moves with precision. As Elon Musk sat in the courtroom, he knew that the battle was far from over, but he also knew that the stakes had just gone up. The prosecution had been relentless, but something had changed in the air. It wasn't just the atmosphere in the courtroom that had shifted, it was the world outside. News outlets were picking up every detail, every new piece of evidence, every statement made, creating an ever-growing frenzy. But there was something else, a subtle change in the way people were viewing the trial. It wasn't just about a tweet anymore. It had become a war over the future of innovation itself. On the morning of the fifth day, something unexpected happened. The judge, after hearing arguments from both sides, declared a surprise break in the proceedings. This wasn't normal. Breaks were planned, but a recess of this magnitude usually indicated something more. Musk's legal team exchanged uneasy glances. It wasn't often that a judge intervened so abruptly. As they waited for the reason behind the break, Musk found himself staring at the large windows behind him. The city outside seemed distant, almost irrelevant to the events unfolding in the courtroom. The world seemed smaller here, and yet, everything he had worked for felt like it was teetering on the edge of collapse. "I need some air," Musk muttered, more to himself than anyone else. His assistant nodded, handing him a phone. "There's something going on outside, sir. You should take a look." Musk frowned but didn't argue. He stepped outside the courtroom into the hallway, where his phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a flurry of messages and headlines. The words that grabbed his attention were the ones he never thought he'd see: breaking, secret whistleblower comes forward. He scrolled quickly, the news stories unfolding in real time. A former Tesla executive had reportedly come forward, claiming that the tweet Musk had made about taking Tesla private had been part of an orchestrated plan, one that went deeper than anyone had imagined. The whistleblower alleged that there had been conversations between Musk and other executives about manipulating the market to push Tesla's stock price higher, giving them a competitive edge and a chance to purchase back shares at a fraction of their value. Musk's stomach tightened. He quickly called his lead lawyer. "What's going on?" Musk demanded. "What's this about a whistleblower?" "We don't know yet, Elon," the lawyer said, his voice a mix of concern and disbelief. "But we're looking into it. We'll need to address this immediately in court. This could change everything." Musk felt a chill run through him. The last thing he needed was another scandal, especially one involving accusations of conspiracy at the highest level of his company. He had always prided himself on his transparency, on the belief that his actions were for the greater good. But now, the story had shifted from one of ambition to one of potential deceit. And Musk knew that this was a game-changer. Back in the courtroom, the recess ended, and the judge called everyone back to attention. The air was heavy with tension as the judge looked out at the room full of eager eyes. Musk stood up, his heart racing as he took his place at the defense table once again. The prosecutor wasted no time, their voice sharp as they addressed the judge. "Your Honor, we've just been made aware of new information. A whistleblower has come forward with serious allegations against Mr. Musk and Tesla. These allegations suggest that the defendant was not acting alone when he made the infamous tweet. In fact, it appears there was an organized effort within Tesla to mislead investors and artificially inflate the stock price." Musk's blood ran cold as the room erupted into murmurs. The implications of these allegations were far-reaching, and they made everything he had fought for look like a carefully crafted lie. The judge's voice cut through the noise, demanding silence. "Mr. Musk," she said, "these are very serious allegations. I believe it is only fair that we address them in court. I will grant the prosecution time to further investigate and prepare their case. However, I would advise you to be ready to respond. Your reputation and the future of your company are at risk. Musk could feel his jaw tightening. He had always been ready to fight. But this was something different. He wasn't just defending himself against a single accusation anymore. The stakes had just escalated beyond his control. Later that evening, Musk sat alone in his hotel room. He had long since stopped thinking about the luxury of his surroundings. The room felt empty, a hollow shell of the life he had built. He had spent the last 2 decades building Tesla and SpaceX from the ground up, and now it all seemed like it was slipping away. His phone buzzed again, this time with a message from a trusted confidant. The whistleblower is real, and the information is credible. They have documents, emails. This could be the end of everything. Musk's fingers trembled as he stared at the message. He knew the world was watching, but now he wondered if they were ready for the truth. Was he truly guilty of the charges? Or had he been set up by those closest to him, those he had trusted to help build his empire? For the first time since the trial began, Musk felt a flicker of doubt. He had spent so many years focused on his vision of a future for humanity, a future powered by clean energy and space exploration. But now, it seemed that the very future he had worked so hard to create might come crashing down in the face of a few carefully timed accusations. The next day, the courtroom was filled with an eerie sense of anticipation. The prosecution was prepared to present their evidence, but Musk's legal team was not about to let it go without a fight. His lawyer stood up, addressing the court with an air of defiance. "Your Honor, the defense intends to fully cooperate with the investigation. However, we do not believe these allegations are as clear-cut as they appear. We intend to show that these claims are baseless and are being used as a tactic to undermine the defendant." The courtroom fell silent as the defense team prepared to present their evidence. But in the back of the room, Musk's mind was racing. He wasn't just fighting for his freedom anymore, he was fighting for his future, his companies, and everything he had ever believed in. As the trial continued, Musk realized one undeniable truth: the battle he was fighting was not just against the legal system or the prosecution. It was against the very forces that sought to destroy the legacy he had worked his entire life to build. And this time, he wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for everything that Tesla and SpaceX represented. The courtroom was packed the following morning, the air charged with anticipation. It was the day the prosecution was set to unveil the whistleblower's testimony. Everything had led up to this moment, and Musk could feel the pressure weighing down on him like a heavy fog. The judge's gavel struck sharply, and the murmur of the crowd slowly faded as everyone turned their attention to the front. The prosecutor stood, their eyes glinting with the expectation of victory. The whistleblower, who had already been confirmed as a former senior executive at Tesla, was set to speak. The courtroom was in an uproar, with reporters scrambling to capture every moment. Musk's palms were slick with sweat as he watched the prosecution prepare for the most critical part of their case. It felt like the walls were closing in on him. "We call to the stand Mr. Michael Grant," the prosecutor declared, his voice echoing through the room. The doors to the courtroom swung open, and a tall man in a well-tailored suit walked in, his face tight with the strain of the moment. He looked around the room, eyes settling for a brief moment on Musk before taking his seat in the witness stand. His appearance was polished, his demeanor calm, too calm, Musk thought. This man was here to destroy him, and everything about him screamed that he knew it. Musk's legal team stiffened, preparing for the storm that was about to hit. The prosecutor took the floor, addressing the court. "Mr. Grant, you were a senior executive at Tesla, correct?" the prosecutor began. "Yes," Grant responded without hesitation, his voice deep and controlled. "And you have knowledge of internal communications related to Elon Musk's tweet about taking Tesla private?" Grant nodded slowly. "I do." The prosecution wasted no time. They moved quickly, detailing how Grant had allegedly uncovered a series of private emails and internal messages that pointed to a coordinated effort to manipulate Tesla's stock price. According to Grant, these communications showed that Musk had worked closely with key members of his executive team to influence market prices, specifically, to create a surge in Tesla's stock to take advantage of the momentum and profit off of it. The prosecutor highlighted a key message from Musk to the Tesla board, reading it aloud for everyone to hear: "The tweet is going to cause a stir, but the stock will be where we want it. We can buy back shares at a discount and gain full control." Musk's heart raced, but he refused to flinch. This was what they had feared. This was the bombshell the prosecution had been holding back. "Mr. Grant," the prosecutor continued, "can you confirm that these messages were part of your work at Tesla?" Grant nodded again. "Yes. These were part of a series of conversations we had internally about market strategy, stock performance, and long-term control of the company." The prosecutor turned to Musk with a satisfied smile. "Mr. Musk, did you, or did you not, authorize these actions?" Musk's mind was spinning. He had heard the words, seen the evidence, but something didn't sit right with him. His gaze flickered to the defense team, who were working frantically behind the scenes to cross-examine the testimony. But it was the truth of Grant's accusations that had shaken him to his core. This wasn't just about a tweet. This was about Tesla's future, and it was unraveling before his very eyes. But then, just as Musk was about to lose his composure, something unexpected happened. His lead attorney, a seasoned litigator who had been silent during most of the prosecution's case, stood up. "Objection, Your Honor," he said loudly. The judge raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by the interruption. "On what grounds?" the judge asked. "We believe that Mr. Grant's testimony is based on incomplete information, and we also contend that his motivations for coming forward are suspect," the attorney explained. "Additionally, the emails he has referenced appear to have been selectively taken out of context. We request that the court examine these documents further before they are allowed to be entered as evidence." The courtroom buzzed with whispers as the judge considered the defense's request. Grant's expression remained unchanged, but Musk could see the slight flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Something wasn't right. After a tense silence, the judge spoke. "Very well, we will adjourn for a brief recess while the defense examines these new claims. Mr. Grant, you will remain under cross-examination once we return." Musk stepped out into the hallway, his thoughts racing. He needed answers, but they weren't coming fast enough. His legal team quickly gathered around him, whispering in hushed tones. "We've reviewed the emails," his lead attorney said. "They're not as damning as the prosecution wants them to appear. The context of the messages has been distorted, and there are inconsistencies in the timeline. We can challenge these documents. There's a chance we can prove that the whistleblower's claims are exaggerated, if not outright false." Musk nodded, but doubt still gnawed at him. Could this all be a smear campaign? Or was there something more sinister at play? His phone buzzed again, breaking his train of thought. It was a message from one of his top executives: "There's a leak in Tesla. Someone's been feeding information to the press about the internal communications. We've traced it back to a few disgruntled former employees." Musk clenched his jaw. He wasn't surprised, but it stung just the same. He had always known there were people within his companies who resented him, but the realization that someone was actively working against him, it felt like a betrayal on a level he hadn't anticipated. As the recess came to an end, Musk returned to the courtroom, feeling a surge of determination. He had always known that the path to success was fraught with danger, but now it seemed the very people closest to him were the ones who might bring him down. When the trial resumed, Musk's defense team jumped into action, systematically dismantling the prosecution's narrative. The cross-examination of Grant was fierce, as Musk's attorney attacked the inconsistencies in his testimony, pointing out contradictions in the timeline of events and questioning the reliability of the whistleblower's memory. Grant's confidence began to waver under the pressure. His once steady voice faltered as Musk's lawyer exposed gaps in the evidence, showing that Grant's version of events didn't match up with the facts. It wasn't just about questioning his integrity, it was about proving that Grant had an agenda. His personal motivations for coming forward were far from innocent. But even as the defense team chipped away at Grant's testimony, Musk knew that the true battle was just beginning. The whistleblower's claims had already sent shockwaves through the courtroom, and no matter how much they exposed the flaws in the case, the media frenzy would continue. It was clear now, this trial wasn't just a fight for Musk's reputation. It was a battle for the soul of the company he had built, and for the future he had envisioned. The days blurred together as the trial progressed, and Musk could feel the weight of every moment pressing down on him. The courtroom had become a battleground, with the defense and prosecution locked in a fierce duel, each side struggling to outmaneuver the other. But for Musk, the true battle was not just about winning the case, it was about protecting everything he had spent years building. Tesla, SpaceX, his vision for the future, it all hung in the balance. The news cycle was relentless, feeding on every development in the trial, every twist and turn. Headlines screamed across screens, some damning, others speculative. The words, whistleblower versus Musk, the battle for the future, became synonymous with the trial, a dramatic narrative that captivated the public's imagination. The world seemed divided, with some siding with Musk, praising his vision for clean energy and space exploration, while others saw him as a reckless, manipulative mogul who had used his position to deceive and profit at the expense of his investors. As the trial dragged on, Musk's personal life began to fracture as well. He barely spoke to his family, his mind consumed by the fight for his future. The relentless pressure of the courtroom, the media circus, and the weight of the accusations gnawed at him. He was no longer the confident visionary he had once been. Now, every decision felt like it could be his last. On the 8th day of the trial, something unexpected happened. The prosecution, eager to drive the final nail in the coffin, called a surprise witness, someone who had been largely kept out of the spotlight. A former Tesla board member named Laura Jensen, who had resigned in the wake of Musk's infamous tweet, took the stand. Jensen was a high-profile figure in the business world, with a reputation for being a staunch advocate of corporate responsibility and ethics. Her presence in the courtroom sent ripples of shock through the audience. Musk's lawyer was visibly uneasy as Jensen took her seat. She was poised, her calm demeanor in stark contrast to the firestorm of accusations that surrounded her. Ms. Jensen, you were a board member at Tesla during the time Mr. Musk made his tweet about taking the company private, is that correct? The prosecutor began. Yes, she replied, her voice steady but firm. Can you describe your experience during that time? Were you made aware of the conversations surrounding the tweet and its potential impact on the stock price? Jensen nodded, her expression unchanged. I was informed of the tweet shortly before it went public. I was concerned because, from my perspective, it was not in line with Tesla's overall strategy. It felt rushed, and I had serious reservations about the potential consequences. I raised these concerns within the board, but the response was dismissive. The tweet was seen as part of a broader plan to take control of the company, and I felt that the long-term risks outweighed any immediate benefits. Musk sat motionless, his gaze fixed on Jensen. Her words were like daggers, each one reinforcing the prosecution's narrative. She painted a picture of a CEO who acted impulsively, with little regard for the broader implications of his actions. It was a portrayal of Musk that he hadn't anticipated, one that suggested a reckless disregard for the consequences of his actions. Jensen's testimony went on for hours, and Musk felt the room closing in on him. He had always been a visionary, someone who was willing to take risks, but hearing her describe his actions as reckless, as a betrayal of the company's values, made him feel small. For a moment, he wondered if she was right, had he been too focused on his dreams and not enough on the reality of running a business? As Jensen finished her testimony, the courtroom fell into an unsettling silence. The prosecutor, seizing the moment, turned to Musk. Mr. Musk, the prosecutor began, you've heard the testimony. You've heard how your own board members were concerned about the direction you were taking Tesla. How do you respond to these allegations? Do you admit to putting your own interests ahead of the company and its shareholders? Musk felt his stomach churn. This was the moment he'd been dreading, the moment when he had to defend himself, not just in the eyes of the law, but in the eyes of the world. The trial had become more than just a legal battle. It had become a public spectacle, and his every word would be scrutinized. He stood up slowly, his voice steady but tinged with a hint of frustration. "Let me be clear," Musk said, his words deliberate. "I never put my own interests ahead of Tesla or its shareholders. I've always acted in the best interest of the company, even when it meant making difficult decisions. Yes, I made a tweet that was misunderstood, and I take responsibility for that. But I've always believed in Tesla's potential to change the world. I've never wavered from that vision, and I've always acted with that long-term goal in mind." The room was silent for a moment as Musk's words hung in the air. He could see the skepticism in the eyes of the jurors, the doubt that had crept into the trial. He knew that his defense had to be more than just words. It had to be backed by actions, by proof that he had always acted in good faith. But the damage had already been done. The narrative was set, and no amount of rhetoric could undo the doubts that had been planted in the minds of the public and the jury. That night, as Musk sat in his hotel room, staring out the window at the city below, he felt a strange sense of resolve. The trial wasn't just about proving his innocence anymore, it was about something deeper. It was about proving that his vision was not just a pipe dream, but a reality worth fighting for. The world may see him as a reckless billionaire, but he knew the truth: he had always been driven by something greater than himself. His phone buzzed again, this time with a message from a source within Tesla: "The leaks are coming faster. We need to take control of the narrative before it spirals out of control." Musk closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He had always prided himself on his ability to change the world. But now, he had to ask himself, was he willing to risk everything to protect that world he had fought so hard to create? As the weight of his decisions hung heavy in the air, Musk knew one thing for certain: the trial was far from over, and the game had just become a lot more dangerous. The following morning, the courtroom was unusually tense. The previous day's testimony had left Musk's defense team scrambling for a counterattack, and his own confidence wavered. As the trial continued to drag on, every new revelation felt like another blow to his reputation. Every time the prosecution presented evidence, every time they called a new witness, the walls seemed to close in tighter. Musk knew that the only way out of this mess was to regain control, but how? As he sat in the courtroom, his mind raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeper at play, something he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just about the stock price anymore. It wasn't just about the tweet. There were forces working behind the scenes, pulling strings, trying to shape the narrative in a way that would destroy him and his companies. Could it be that someone was orchestrating all of this from the shadows? A series of small, seemingly unrelated events had begun to form a disturbing pattern, one that Musk was just starting to piece together. The next witness to take the stand was an expert in corporate governance, brought in by the prosecution to testify about the ethical breaches Musk had allegedly committed. The expert, a polished individual named Dr. Philip Carroll, had an impressive resume and a reputation for speaking bluntly about corporate responsibility. Musk knew from the moment Carroll was introduced that the defense would be fighting an uphill battle. The man's words carried weight, he was considered an authority on corporate ethics, and his opinion was likely to sway the jury. Dr. Carroll's testimony was predictably damning. He outlined a series of corporate governance standards that Musk had allegedly violated, painting a picture of a CEO who acted without regard for the long-term stability of his company. According to Dr. Carroll, Musk's actions, particularly his tweet about taking Tesla private, were a flagrant violation of SEC regulations, as well as fundamental corporate principles. Musk's attorneys had little to go on during Carroll's testimony. They couldn't challenge his credentials, and they couldn't argue with the logic of his arguments. The damage was done. The prosecution had found an expert who could make Musk seem like a reckless executive, someone who used his public persona to manipulate the markets. But Musk wasn't ready to give up just yet. As the day wore on, Musk grew more restless. His team was doing everything they could to fight back, but he could feel the tide turning. He needed to make a move, something bold that would shake the foundation of the trial. He leaned over to his lead attorney, Maria Lopez, and whispered in her ear. "I want to know who's behind all of this. There's something off about the way this is going, Musk said, his voice low but urgent. Lopez gave him a sharp look but didn't respond immediately. She had been with him through thick and thin, and she knew better than to question his instincts. She had her own suspicions, but she also knew the stakes. The trial was not just a legal battle, it was a war of narratives, and Musk's side was losing. "I'll look into it," Lopez replied quietly, her eyes scanning the courtroom as if to ensure no one overheard them. "But you need to stay focused on the case. If we let this spiral, it's over." Musk nodded, but he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he was being manipulated, like a pawn in a much larger game. Something didn't add up. That night, after the courtroom had emptied, Musk retreated to his hotel room, his mind swirling with questions. He couldn't sleep, pacing back and forth in the dimly lit space. The whole world was watching, but the trial had become more than just about him, it had become a symbol. A symbol of the power of the media, the power of influence, and the fragile nature of public opinion. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from his trusted advisor, a former Tesla executive named Ben Davis. "Musk, there's something you need to see. It's about the leaks. I think we've traced them back to a group of insiders. It's more than just disgruntled employees. Someone's orchestrating this." Musk's heart skipped a beat. He stared at the message, his mind racing. He had suspected that something was wrong, but now he had confirmation. There was someone pulling the strings, someone who had an agenda. Ben's message continued, "I'll meet you tomorrow morning. We need to talk in person. There's more to this than we've been led to believe." Musk's pulse quickened. This was it, the breakthrough he had been waiting for. He knew that the road ahead would be dangerous, but this was the only chance he had to regain control of the narrative. Whoever was behind this, whoever had been manipulating the situation, would have to face the consequences. The next morning, Musk met with Ben Davis at a small, discreet cafe on the outskirts of the city. They kept their conversation low-key, knowing that their meeting had to remain confidential. "Musk, I've been digging into this for weeks," Ben began, his voice filled with urgency. "It's not just about the tweet. It's not even about the SEC investigation. There's a concerted effort to destroy you, and it's being orchestrated by people within Tesla itself." Musk leaned in, his brow furrowed. "What are you saying? Who's behind this?" Ben looked around cautiously before continuing. "There's a group of former executives, people who left Tesla under questionable circumstances, who are working together. They've been feeding information to the press, leaking internal communications to make you look bad. But it's not just about retaliation. They want control of Tesla, and they're using this trial to weaken your position. They're playing a long game." Musk felt a cold chill run down his spine. The pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to fit together. He had always known there were people within Tesla who disagreed with his vision, but to think that there was a coordinated effort to take him down, that was something else entirely. "You're telling me that these people are working together?" Musk asked, disbelief creeping into his voice. "Yes," Ben replied. "And I think we've identified the key players. There's a financial backer behind them, someone who stands to gain a lot if Tesla's leadership changes. This isn't just a personal vendetta, it's a financial play." Musk's mind raced. He had always known that the corporate world was cutthroat, but this was more than just a fight for control of a company. It was about power, money, and influence on a scale he hadn't imagined. "I need names," Musk said, his voice hardening. "And I need to know how deep this goes." Ben nodded. "I've got a list of people. But I'll need more time to gather everything we need. This goes all the way to the top, Musk. You're not just fighting a legal battle. You're fighting for your future." Musk sat back, processing the information. This was no longer just a trial. It was a war. And he was determined to win. As Musk left the cafe, the weight of the situation bore down on him. He was up against more than just a court case. He was up against a conspiracy, a shadow war that was threatening to destroy everything he had worked for. But Musk was not one to back down. He had fought against the odds before, and this time, he was ready to fight back harder than ever. The game had just changed, and Musk was prepared to play it to win. The next few days were a blur. Musk had never felt more alone in the battle for his future. The pressure from the trial, the constant media scrutiny, and now the revelation of an underground conspiracy had him questioning everything he thought he knew about the people around him. Ben Davis had promised more information, and Musk trusted him. Ben had been with Tesla from the very beginning, but the depths of betrayal he now found himself swimming in were unsettling. There were whispers of a shadowy cabal within Tesla, people he had once considered loyal allies, now conspiring against him. Musk knew he had to take action, but how could he expose something so deeply hidden without putting everything at risk? The following evening, Musk convened a private meeting with his closest team members, those he trusted the most, Maria Lopez, his defense attorney, and a few key executives from Tesla. They met in the conference room of his hotel, away from prying eyes. "All right, let's get to the bottom of this," Musk began, looking at each of them carefully. "There's something bigger going on here than just the trial. Ben's found evidence that certain people inside Tesla are behind all these leaks. It's not just a vendetta, it's coordinated, and they're using this trial to weaken my position and take control of the company." Maria looked skeptical, but she wasn't dismissive. "If what you're saying is true, then we have a serious problem. Who exactly are we talking about here? If these people have enough leverage, they could damage more than just your reputation. They could destroy Tesla entirely." Musk nodded grimly. "Exactly. They're not just playing with my reputation, they're playing with the future of the company. This goes way beyond personal grievances. We're talking about people who want control. They're manipulating the situation, using every opportunity to undermine my leadership." "Do we have any solid leads?" Maria asked, leaning forward. "Ben's working on it," Musk said, glancing down at his phone. He'd just received another text from Ben, "The key players are in place. We've traced the leaks back to a few high-level former executives, but there's one name that stands out, John Hargrove." Musk's stomach dropped. He knew Hargrove. He had been one of the original Tesla board members, someone who had helped the company through its early years. Musk had trusted him implicitly, but that trust had been shattered when Hargrove left the company under controversial circumstances a year ago. "Hargrove?" Maria repeated, raising an eyebrow. "He left under pretty nasty conditions. Why would he be involved in something like this?" "Because he has a lot to lose," Musk replied. "He was one of the people who didn't agree with my direction for Tesla. He thought I was pushing too hard, too fast. He didn't like my focus on space exploration, on pushing the boundaries of electric vehicles, and he didn't want me to go public with my plans for future AI developments. Hargrove wanted stability, he wanted Tesla to be a predictable, profitable company. And when he left, he didn't just leave with his reputation bruised, he left with a deep-seated resentment." "Then he's the one pulling the strings," one of the executives muttered, the tension palpable in the room. "Not just him," Musk replied. "It's a group. Hargrove might be the one at the center, but he has allies, people who want the same things, control, power, and the ability to shape Tesla into something they believe is more manageable. They've been systematically weakening me from the inside. They've been leaking confidential information, sabotaging our progress, and turning the press against me." Maria's face tightened. "We need to go public with this. Expose them before they can do more damage. If we don't, they'll tear you down, and Tesla with it." Musk shook his head. "Not yet. We don't have enough to make that case. We need evidence, something irrefutable that will not only expose them but also protect Tesla's future. If we go public without solid proof, they'll spin it against us. We need to outsmart them, stay one step ahead." Maria hesitated but nodded. "All right. What's the plan?" Musk stood up and began pacing. "Ben's working on gathering everything we need. Meanwhile, we'll keep our heads down and continue with the trial. I'll play my part. But I want you to get in touch with our key allies inside Tesla. We need to shore up support and be ready to act when the time comes. Maria and the others exchanged looks, understanding the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just about clearing Musk's name, it was about saving everything they had worked for. The next few days felt like a war of attrition. The trial continued, and the prosecution kept bringing in new witnesses, each one seeming more prepared to make Musk look guilty. But Musk was determined not to let the trial define him. He had bigger battles to fight. On the fourth day after the meeting with his team, Ben Davis finally sent a message that brought a sense of urgency to the situation. We have the smoking gun. We've tracked Hargrove's connections to several investment firms that have publicly stated their intention to reshape Tesla. One of them has ties to key members of the board. This is bigger than we thought. Musk read the message, feeling his pulse quicken. This was the moment they had been waiting for. If they could expose these financial ties, if they could reveal the true motivations behind the leaks, it would be the turning point in the trial. But Musk knew that time was running out. The prosecution was closing in, and every minute spent gathering evidence felt like a minute they didn't have. That night, as Musk lay awake in bed, his mind racing, he couldn't help but reflect on everything that had led to this moment. He had always prided himself on his ability to turn the impossible into the possible. From creating Tesla to launching SpaceX to his visions of colonizing Mars, Musk had never been afraid to aim high. But now, as he lay in the dark, the enormity of what he was up against weighed on him. Was this the end of everything he had worked for? Or was it the beginning of a new battle, a battle for his vision, for his future, and for the future of the world? Musk knew one thing for certain, he wasn't going to give up without a fight. The next morning, the court session began with the usual tension. Musk entered the courtroom, his mind still swirling from the previous night's revelations. The walls of the courtroom felt even closer now, like a claustrophobic chamber that amplified his every thought. He wasn't just fighting for his reputation anymore, he was fighting for his entire vision, the future of Tesla, SpaceX, and everything he had sacrificed for. Musk's defense team had been working overtime to prepare a counterattack, but even with Ben's new intel, he knew they were walking a fine line. Any wrong move could tip the scales irreparably in favor of the prosecution. They needed something big, something that would shift the momentum in their favor. The trial began with the usual formalities. The judge, Judge Harmon, seemed as detached as ever, flipping through papers and listening to the prosecution's arguments with an almost clinical disinterest. But Musk knew that Harmon was a man of influence, someone whose rulings could sway the jury's perception of the entire case. It wasn't lost on Musk that Harmon's decisions thus far had favored the prosecution, and the fact that the judge's reputation was built on his tough-on-corporate-crime stance made Musk uneasy. There were whispers in legal circles that Harmon had his own agenda, an agenda that wasn't entirely in line with justice. As the prosecution presented more damning evidence, Musk could feel the weight of their accusations crushing him. They painted him as a reckless leader, someone who had manipulated the stock market and deceived his investors for personal gain. His reputation was on the line, and his every word in court could be the difference between victory and defeat. But Musk wasn't the type to back down. He knew that the only way to turn the tide in his favor was to take control of the narrative. It was time to play the dangerous game of exposing the conspiracy, and he knew exactly where to strike. That afternoon, during a break in the proceedings, Musk called Ben Davis. "We need to make our move. The jury is starting to buy into the prosecution's narrative. It's time to expose Hargrove and the investors behind him." Ben was already ahead of him. "We've got the evidence. We've tracked down the financial backers and their ties to the former executives. We've got documents, emails, everything we need to prove that this trial isn't just about me. It's about corporate manipulation on a massive scale." Musk took a deep breath. "Do it. Release it. We need to show the jury, the public, everyone. I'll handle the courtroom, just make sure the press gets their hands on this information." Ben agreed, but there was a certain unease in his voice. "Musk, once this information goes public, we can't take it back. Hargrove's people will fight back, and they won't do it quietly. Are you prepared for that?" Musk clenched his jaw, the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. "I've been prepared for this from the moment they decided to come after me. Let's do it." Hours later, as the trial resumed, the atmosphere in the courtroom was thick with anticipation. The defense had been quiet for most of the day, but Musk was about to change that. He stood up, signaling to Maria Lopez that it was time to make their move. Maria nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Your Honor, we request a brief recess. We have new evidence we would like to present to the court." Judge Harmon looked up from his notes, his eyes narrowing. He had always been cautious with such requests. "A recess? On what grounds, Ms. Lopez?" "We've just uncovered new information regarding the prosecution's case, Your Honor. It's imperative that we present it before proceeding further," Maria said, her voice steady, though the tension was evident. Judge Harmon didn't look pleased, but after a moment's deliberation, he relented. "Very well. A short recess, but make it quick." The courtroom erupted into hushed murmurs as the recess was called. Musk's pulse quickened. He had no idea how the next few minutes would unfold, but he knew that he was about to make a move that would change everything. In the back room, Musk's legal team worked quickly. Ben had just sent over the final batch of documents, and Maria was scrambling to get them ready for presentation. The plan was simple: they would show the court irrefutable proof that Hargrove and his financial backers had orchestrated the leaks and the smear campaign against Musk. But the real twist was in the timing. They would do this just as the jury's doubts about Musk's character were reaching their peak. Musk leaned against the wall, taking a deep breath as his mind raced. Every second felt like an eternity, but he couldn't afford to hesitate. The documents were clear: Hargrove's group had been involved in a coordinated effort to destabilize Tesla, and now they were trying to use the trial to finish the job. The door opened, and Maria stepped in, holding a thick stack of papers. "We're ready," she said. "This is it." Back in the courtroom, the tension was palpable as the jury waited in silence. Judge Harmon returned to the bench, his gavel echoing through the room as he called for order. "Ms. Lopez, I trust you have something important to present." Maria stood up, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. "Yes, Your Honor. We have evidence that not only discredits the accusations against Mr. Musk, but also proves that certain individuals within Tesla and affiliated companies have been actively working against him. These individuals, led by former board member John Hargrove, have orchestrated the leaks that have fueled this trial." The prosecution jumped to their feet. "Objection. This is a complete diversion, Your Honor. There is no evidence to back these claims." Maria didn't flinch. "We have the evidence, Your Honor. Emails, financial records, documents that link Hargrove and several others to a concerted effort to destabilize Tesla and tarnish Mr. Musk's reputation. We request that these documents be entered into evidence." The judge hesitated. This was unexpected, to say the least. His eyes flickered between Maria, Musk, and the stunned prosecution team. "This is highly irregular, but I will allow it. Proceed." Maria handed the stack of documents to the bailiff, who began distributing copies to the judge and the prosecution. The room fell deathly quiet as everyone began scanning the documents. Musk could see the reactions on the faces of the jury as they read through the evidence. There was no turning back now. Minutes later, after what felt like an eternity, the prosecution's lead attorney, Raymond Keller, stood up, his face flushed with frustration. "Your Honor, these documents are completely fabricated." Keller stammered. "We demand a full investigation into the source of this information." Judge Harmon raised a hand, silencing Keller. "Mr. Keller, I suggest you focus on the evidence in front of us. If these documents are legitimate, they are highly relevant to this case. We will reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. to continue." As the gavel fell, Musk allowed himself a brief moment of relief. For the first time in days, he felt like he had regained control. But he knew the battle was far from over. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The next morning, the courtroom felt like a battlefield. The air was thick with tension as the prosecution regrouped, and Musk's team stood at the ready. The dramatic shift in the previous day's proceedings had set the stage for what promised to be an explosive continuation. Musk entered the courtroom with a renewed sense of resolve. The documents had done their job, at least for now. The jury, now aware of the conspiracy against him, was more cautious in their reactions. Their skepticism had shifted from Musk to the prosecution. But Musk knew better than to assume victory too soon. This was far from over. He still had to finish what he'd started, and he couldn't afford any slip-ups. The judge, Judge Harmon, took his seat with a somber expression, his gavel coming down hard to call the session to order. "We will now continue," he announced, his voice echoing across the room. "Yesterday's evidence has been noted, and the court will now hear from both parties." Maria Lopez stood, her posture unwavering. "Your Honor, we request that the court take immediate action on the evidence presented yesterday. The information we have provided directly implicates former board member John Hargrove and several key figures in Tesla's past. They were orchestrating the leaks and spreading false narratives about Mr. Musk, all with the intent of sabotaging Tesla's future." Keller, the prosecution's lead attorney, was clearly rattled, but he tried to maintain composure. "Your Honor, this is a diversion. These documents have not been verified, and they have no direct relevance to the charges against Mr. Musk. We are here to address specific actions, not unfounded accusations against former employees." "Objection," Maria shot back, her voice firm. "These accusations are not unfounded. The evidence speaks for itself. We have financial records, emails, and testimonies from former employees who have confirmed these links. If Mr. Hargrove and his allies want to discredit Mr. Musk, we have every right to expose them." Judge Harmon paused, his gaze sharp as he looked down at the stack of documents. The tension in the room was palpable, and Musk could feel his heart pounding. He knew the judge's decision would be crucial in determining the next phase of the trial. A misstep now could undo everything they had worked for. After a long silence, the judge finally spoke. "We will allow further examination of the evidence. But I want to remind both parties that this is a court of law. We are here to examine the facts, not get caught up in public relations battles." With a nod, Maria sat down, and Musk exhaled deeply, feeling a small surge of hope. But the battle was far from over. His enemies had already shown that they would stop at nothing to defeat him. As the day went on, Musk kept his eyes on the prosecution. Keller was clearly rattled. Every time the defense team presented a new piece of evidence, Keller's responses grew more frantic. Musk could almost hear the wheels turning in his opponent's mind, scrambling to regain control of the narrative. The once confident prosecutor was now visibly uncomfortable, his usual composure slipping. During a brief recess, Maria approached Musk, her face serious. "We need to stay vigilant. Keller's going to pull out every trick in the book to discredit us. He's not going to let this slide without a fight." Musk nodded. "I know. But we're on the right track. We have them cornered." Maria hesitated. "Do you think we're ready to take this public yet? If we release the full details of the conspiracy, it could create a storm. But it might be what we need to completely turn the tide." Musk thought for a moment. The idea of going public was tempting, but it also had its risks. If they revealed too much too soon, they might expose themselves to even more attacks. They needed to be strategic, he couldn't afford to give his enemies any more ammunition. "Not yet," Musk said quietly. "We need to build the case, piece by piece. Let's see how they respond to this evidence first." As the trial continued, the weight of the conspiracy continued to hang over Musk's head. Each new revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom, and the jury was becoming more and more disillusioned with the prosecution's claims. But just as it seemed like Musk was gaining ground, the prosecution introduced a new witness, someone from Musk's past who claimed to have damning evidence that would destroy his defense. Musk's stomach dropped as he watched the witness walk up to the stand. It was one of his former engineers, someone he had trusted implicitly. The man's name was Ethan Wells, and he had worked at Tesla for years before abruptly leaving the company under mysterious circumstances. Ethan was poised, his expression cold as he addressed the court. "I was part of a project at Tesla that involved cutting corners to meet unrealistic production goals. I witnessed several instances where Mr. Musk disregarded safety protocols to rush production. There were multiple red flags, and I felt that the company's future was in jeopardy." The room grew silent. Musk's heart raced as the jury listened intently. He knew Ethan was a former ally, someone who had been integral to the early successes of Tesla. What was he doing here, turning on him in such a public way? "Mr. Musk," Ethan continued, "you always talked about taking risks, but there were times when those risks crossed ethical lines. I wasn't the only one who noticed. I felt compelled to leave before it was too late." Keller wasted no time. "And you have the evidence to back these claims, don't you, Mr. Wells?" Ethan nodded, his gaze never leaving Musk. "Yes. I have emails, internal memos, documents that show Mr. Musk was aware of the risks but chose to prioritize speed over safety." Musk's mind raced. This was a blow he hadn't seen coming. Ethan's testimony could have been devastating if the prosecution played their cards right. But something about the way Ethan spoke, his almost rehearsed tone, made Musk suspicious. It didn't feel genuine. Maria leaned over and whispered in Musk's ear. "We need to dig into Ethan's past. There's something off about this." Musk nodded, his instincts kicking into high gear. There was no way Ethan could be trusted now. Someone had gotten to him, and Musk was determined to find out who. As the session ended for the day, Musk gathered his team for an emergency meeting. They couldn't afford to let Ethan's testimony stand unanswered. They needed to act fast. "We need to investigate Ethan's recent activities," Musk said, his voice low but urgent. "I suspect someone has bribed him to testify against me. This is too important to ignore." Maria nodded. "I'll get to work on it right away. But we need to be careful. If we push too hard, we might provoke a response from the other side." Musk clenched his fists. "We have no choice. This trial isn't just about me anymore. It's about everything we've built. And I won't let them tear it down." That night, as Musk lay awake in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling, he couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in on him. The trial was becoming more complicated by the hour, and his enemies were getting bolder. But he couldn't give up now. Not when the stakes were so high. He had been in tough spots before, but this time, he was fighting not just for himself, but for the future of everything he believed in. He wasn't going to lose. Not now. Not ever. The morning after Ethan Wells' explosive testimony, Musk's nerves were on edge. His once steady confidence was now tangled with uncertainty. The trial had taken a dark turn, and the pressure was mounting. Ethan's accusation had planted a seed of doubt in the jury's mind, one that could grow into a full-blown storm if Musk didn't act quickly. In the quiet of his hotel room, he couldn't stop replaying the scene from the day before. Ethan had spoken with such cold detachment, almost like a man who was reading lines from a script. Musk's instincts told him that something wasn't right. The testimony didn't add up, and he had to find out why. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that digging into Ethan's past could uncover something far more sinister than he had imagined. By the time Musk arrived at the courthouse, his mind was already racing through every possibility. Maria Lopez and Ben Davis were waiting for him outside the courtroom, looking just as serious as he felt. "Any updates on Ethan?" Musk asked, his voice tight with urgency. Maria nodded. "We've got a lead. Ethan Wells was in touch with a former Tesla executive who was let go after a scandal involving product safety. It looks like he's been in regular contact with someone close to Hargrove. We need to dig deeper into that connection. Ben chimed in, his eyes focused. The timing's too suspicious. If we can tie Ethan to the people behind Hargrove, we can prove this is all part of a setup. The question is, how far is Hargrove willing to go to destroy you? Musk clenched his jaw. Farther than we can imagine, I bet. But we need to stay ahead of him. Keep digging. I want everything on Ethan's contacts, his finances, everything. Maria gave a quick nod, her phone already in hand, texting the team to get the investigation rolling. Musk couldn't afford to waste time. Every moment counted. The courtroom buzzed with tension as the day's session began. The prosecution team was ready to press forward with their case, hoping to capitalize on the momentum from Ethan's testimony. Keller stood before the judge, looking more confident than he had in days, as if the tides had turned in his favor. But Musk wasn't going to let that happen. The cracks in the prosecution's narrative were beginning to show, and Musk was determined to widen them. As the trial progressed, Musk's legal team carefully worked to expose the inconsistencies in Ethan's story. Every piece of evidence they presented contradicted the narrative that Ethan was trying to sell. There were discrepancies in the safety reports Ethan claimed to have seen, and the memos he referenced didn't line up with the production timelines Musk had set. It was clear that Ethan was either lying or being manipulated into lying. Maria stood up, her voice steady but filled with conviction. Your Honor, we request a cross-examination of Mr. Wells. We believe his testimony is not only unreliable but potentially part of a larger scheme to undermine my client's credibility. Keller objected immediately. Objection. This is simply an attempt to discredit a legitimate witness. Mr. Wells is credible, and his testimony is supported by multiple documents. Judge Harmon, who had been silent throughout the exchange, raised his hand for quiet. I will allow the cross-examination, but make it brief. We have already seen ample evidence from both sides. Let's keep this moving. Musk felt a spark of hope. This was his chance to strike back, to expose the cracks in the prosecution's armor. When it was finally Musk's turn to question Ethan, the air in the courtroom shifted. The room seemed to hold its breath as Musk rose from his seat, his gaze never leaving Ethan's. Ethan, Musk began, his voice calm yet firm. You claim that you witnessed unsafe production practices at Tesla. But I have evidence here that directly contradicts your testimony. I have emails from you, sent to your colleagues, in which you praised the very systems you now criticize. Why the sudden change in position? Ethan hesitated for a moment, his eyes darting to Keller, who sat in the front row with his arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable. It was clear that Musk had caught him off guard. You're mistaken, Mr. Musk. Those emails, Ethan started, but Musk cut him off. No, Ethan. I'm not mistaken. You were a key player in Tesla's growth, and for years, you were one of the strongest advocates for the company's safety protocols. You were proud of the work we did. So what happened? Musk's voice grew sharper. Was it the money, Ethan? Did someone offer you a deal you couldn't refuse? The jury was watching intently, and Musk could feel their eyes on him. Every word counted. He needed to push Ethan into a corner, make him crack. Ethan's face reddened as he squirmed in his seat. You were pushed into this, weren't you? Musk pressed. By people who want to see Tesla fail. By people who stand to profit if I'm out of the picture. He looked directly at Hargrove's legal team. People like John Hargrove. The room was silent as Musk's words hung in the air. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his hands tightening into fists. For a moment, it looked like he might say something more. But instead, he lowered his gaze, his jaw clenched in defeat. Judge Harmon spoke, his voice stern. Mr. Musk, you're getting dangerously close to accusations without evidence. I suggest we move on. But Musk wasn't done. Your Honor, I have plenty of evidence. I can prove that Ethan Wells was paid to lie, to destroy Tesla's reputation, and that his testimony is part of a coordinated attack against my company. If you allow me to present this evidence, we will expose the truth." Keller jumped to his feet, his voice filled with outrage. "Objection. This is preposterous. You cannot just throw around baseless accusations like that." Judge Harmon looked between the two attorneys, his expression neutral. "We will take a brief recess. Mr. Musk, I expect you to present this evidence as soon as we reconvene." As the recess began, Musk was already on the phone with Maria and Ben, urging them to dig deeper into Ethan's past. They needed to find concrete proof of his involvement in the conspiracy. Maria spoke quickly. "We've traced Ethan's financial records. It's worse than we thought. There's a large deposit from a shell company linked to Hargrove's allies, right around the time he suddenly left Tesla. We're pulling more details now." Musk's heart raced. This was it. If they could tie Ethan directly to the conspiracy, the entire case could crumble in front of them. They had to act fast. When the session resumed, Musk's legal team presented the evidence they had gathered: bank records, phone records, and messages that clearly connected Ethan Wells to Hargrove's network. The jury was left in stunned silence as the truth about Ethan's motivations began to unfold. The prosecution's star witness had been bought and paid for. Keller stood motionless, his face pale, as he realized the walls were closing in. This was the moment Musk had been waiting for, the moment everything started to unravel. Judge Harmon looked over the new evidence, his expression unreadable. "This court will take time to review these new developments. We will reconvene tomorrow to determine the next steps." As Musk left the courtroom that day, he felt a rush of triumph, but he knew the battle wasn't over yet. Hargrove and his allies weren't going to give up easily. There were more cards to play, more strategies to be revealed. But for the first time in a long while, Musk felt like he was back in control. He had won this round. But the war was far from over. The night before the next session of the trial, Musk sat alone in his hotel room, his mind buzzing with the events of the past few days. He had successfully exposed the corruption behind Ethan Wells' testimony, and the tide seemed to be turning in his favor. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something much bigger was at play. Hargrove and his allies would stop at nothing to destroy him, and he knew this was far from over. He stared at his phone, scrolling through the messages from his legal team. Maria and Ben had been working around the clock, piecing together the evidence that would prove Hargrove's involvement in the conspiracy. But Musk knew they had to be careful. The higher the stakes, the more dangerous the game. The following morning, Musk arrived at the courthouse early, his mind sharp and focused. The courtroom was unusually quiet as he entered, the air thick with anticipation. His team was already in position, and he could feel the shift in the room as they prepared to present their findings. It was time to finish what they had started. Judge Harmon entered the courtroom, his gavel ringing out as the session began. "We will continue with the proceedings. Mr. Musk, your team has requested to present new evidence. Please proceed." Musk stood, his back straight, his eyes fixed on the judge. "Your Honor, we have gathered substantial evidence linking Mr. Ethan Wells to a network of individuals who have actively conspired to undermine my company. We ask that the court allow us to present this evidence in its entirety." Keller, the lead prosecutor, was already standing up, his face flushed with frustration. "Your Honor, we object. This evidence is nothing more than a diversion from the case at hand. It has no bearing on the charges against Mr. Musk." Judge Harmon turned to Keller, his voice calm but firm. "I will allow the evidence to be presented, but I expect both sides to refrain from unnecessary dramatics. Let's keep this focused on the facts." Musk could feel his pulse quicken as he looked over at Maria. She nodded at him, signaling that everything was ready. The courtroom was about to see the truth laid bare. Maria stepped forward, her voice steady as she addressed the court. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what we are about to show you is not just evidence, it is the proof that the prosecution's entire case is built on a lie. We have uncovered financial transactions, private communications, and a network of connections that directly tie Ethan Wells to those who seek to destroy Mr. Musk and Tesla. This is not just a corporate dispute, this is an attack on the very heart of innovation, on the pursuit of progress. The jury listened in silence as Maria pulled up a series of documents on the projector. The first set of evidence was a string of emails between Ethan Wells and key figures in Hargrove's network, all detailing plans to sabotage Tesla's public image. There were detailed instructions on how to manipulate news stories, spread rumors, and undermine Musk's credibility. Keller's face had drained of color as the documents appeared on the screen. He quickly shot up, his voice shaking. Objection. This is irrelevant. These emails are from a private dispute, and they do not pertain to the charges in this trial. Judge Harmon turned to Keller with a steely gaze. Mr. Keller, we will allow this evidence to be presented. If you have objections, please save them for cross-examination. Maria continued, unfazed by the interruption. We also have financial records showing large sums of money flowing into Ethan Wells' accounts from shell companies linked directly to individuals who have actively worked against Tesla's success. These are not random transactions. They are payments for services rendered, services intended to destroy Tesla's reputation and, by extension, Mr. Musk's career. The room fell into stunned silence as Maria clicked through more records, showing wire transfers, legal fees, and a trail of payments that led directly to Hargrove's associates. Musk watched as the faces of the jury members shifted from curiosity to disbelief. They could no longer ignore the weight of the evidence before them. Keller was visibly rattled, his usual composure shattered. He scrambled to regain control, standing and attempting to address the court. This is an outrageous attack on our case. Mr. Musk is attempting to deflect attention from the very real accusations against him. These are just distractions. But Maria wasn't done. She turned to the judge, her expression resolute. Your Honor, the evidence we've presented today shows that Ethan Wells is not just a witness, he is a paid conspirator. He was paid to provide false testimony and to derail this trial. If the prosecution wishes to continue defending his credibility, they must explain why he was paid tens of thousands of dollars by people with a vested interest in seeing Mr. Musk fall. Keller's face flushed with anger, but the judge's cold gaze silenced him before he could respond. Mr. Keller, I believe we've heard enough for now. We will adjourn for the day. The court will reconvene tomorrow to discuss this new evidence in more detail. As Musk left the courtroom, he felt a sense of cautious relief. They had taken a major step forward, but he knew they still had to be careful. The trial wasn't over yet, and Hargrove's forces would not go down without a fight. Ben Davis met him outside the courtroom. We've hit them hard today, but we need to keep the pressure up. We need to finish what we started. Tomorrow, we go for the jugular. Musk nodded, a grim smile tugging at the corners of his lips. We're close. But we can't get complacent. The enemy is desperate, and desperation makes them dangerous. Maria joined them, her expression focused. We've got to hit them with everything we've got. I'm already coordinating with our experts to go over the financial records again. We'll find more evidence, they've left a trail. Musk could see the determination in their eyes, the unwavering resolve that had kept him going through this entire ordeal. He knew the battle wasn't won yet, but it was clear they were on the right path. That night, as Musk sat in his hotel room, reviewing the evidence one last time before bed, his phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Maria. Musk, we've got something. It's bigger than we thought. You need to see this. His heart skipped a beat. What could it be? Was this the final piece of the puzzle? Musk grabbed his phone, opening the file Maria had sent. As he scanned through the documents, his eyes widened. There it was, a smoking gun. A financial record that tied Hargrove directly to a shady offshore account, a payment from an undisclosed source that had gone to a company working to sabotage Tesla's autonomous vehicle project. He leaned back in his chair, a surge of adrenaline rushing through his veins. This was the proof he needed to end it all. Tomorrow, he would bring this to the court. Hargrove wouldn't know what hit him. The days were beginning to blur together for Musk. He had been battling in the courtroom for weeks, each day bringing more pressure, more accusations, and more revelations. But as he prepared for the final day of the trial, he felt a mix of determination and exhaustion. This was it, the last chance to expose Hargrove's conspiracy once and for all. That night, after reviewing the evidence Maria had uncovered, Musk could barely sleep. The smoking gun, the connection between Hargrove and the offshore account, was undeniable. He knew this would be the piece of the puzzle that would break the case wide open. But there was still a nagging feeling in the back of his mind. What if Hargrove had something left to pull out of his sleeve? What if there was one final twist that would shift the entire trial in the other direction? He tried to push the doubt aside, focusing on the task at hand. His legal team was ready. Maria, Ben, and the rest of the team had been working tirelessly, preparing their arguments and fine-tuning their presentation. Musk had never been more grateful for the people by his side. They had become more than colleagues, they were his lifeline in this fight. The morning of the final day dawned, gray clouds hanging low in the sky as if the world itself was holding its breath. Musk stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. His reflection seemed almost unfamiliar to him, tired, worn, but resolute. He wasn't going to let Hargrove win. Not this time. As he made his way to the courthouse, the streets seemed eerily quiet. He could feel the weight of the city's gaze on him. The entire world had been watching this trial, and soon, it would all come to a head. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. The jury was already seated, their faces unreadable as they waited for the next round of testimony. The defense team was ready to present their final piece of evidence, the final nail in Hargrove's coffin. Musk could sense the prosecution's anxiety. Keller looked more frazzled than usual, his jacket slightly askew and his eyes darting nervously toward the defense table. Judge Harmon entered the courtroom, his stern expression setting the tone for what was about to unfold. This is the final day of proceedings. Both sides will present their closing arguments. Mr. Musk, you may begin. Musk stood up, his movements deliberate as he faced the jury. For a moment, he paused, taking in the faces of the 12 men and women who had been listening to this case for so long. They were the ones who held his fate in their hands. He had to make sure they understood the truth, the full extent of the conspiracy that had been orchestrated against him. Members of the jury, Musk began, his voice steady but full of conviction, what you've seen in this trial is not just the story of a businessman fighting to protect his company. It's the story of a man who has been wrongfully accused, a man who has been betrayed by those closest to him. I stand before you today not only as the CEO of Tesla but as someone who has dedicated his life to making the world a better place through innovation and technology. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. He could see a few of the jurors leaning forward, clearly engaged in what he was saying. What this trial has truly revealed is a calculated attack, a conspiracy orchestrated by John Hargrove and his allies to destroy Tesla's reputation and bring down everything we've worked for. We've presented the evidence, emails, financial transactions, offshore accounts, that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Ethan Wells, the key witness against me, was paid to provide false testimony. His accusations were not based on truth, they were based on money, on a plan to destroy my company. Musk's eyes shifted to Keller, who was standing at the prosecution's table, trying to hide the mounting frustration on his face. We've exposed the lies, the manipulation, the deception. And now, it's time for you to make your decision. I ask you to look at the evidence, not the distractions. Look at the facts and ask yourselves, who stands to gain from this attack on Tesla? Who benefits from my downfall? The answer is clear. He turned back to the jury, his gaze intense. It is John Hargrove and the people who want to see Tesla fail. They will stop at nothing to take me down, but they underestimated the power of truth. The truth has been laid bare before you. And now, I ask you to deliver justice. Musk took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Thank you. As Musk returned to his seat, Maria gave him a brief nod of approval. He had done his part. Now, it was up to the jury. Keller stood up to give the prosecution's closing statement. His voice was sharp, filled with the desperation of a man who knew the end was near. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what Mr. Musk has presented is nothing more than a distraction. A desperate attempt to avoid responsibility. He wants you to believe that the accusations against him are part of some grand conspiracy, but the facts are clear. He misled investors, misled the public, and endangered lives. Tesla's safety record speaks for itself. Keller's eyes flicked nervously to the defense table. This trial is about accountability. It's about making sure that the people who hurt others through their reckless behavior are held responsible. We are not here to decide if Mr. Musk is a visionary. We are here to decide if he is guilty of the crimes he is accused of. And the evidence is overwhelming. As Keller finished his closing argument, Musk sat silently, his thoughts racing. The jury had seen the evidence. They knew the truth. It was up to them now. Judge Harmon gavelled the court into recess. We will reconvene after a short break for the jury to deliberate. Please remain in your seats. The room emptied, but Musk didn't move. His mind was fixed on the outcome, on the fate that hung in the balance. Maria and Ben stayed close by, offering their support, but even they knew there was nothing more to be done. The decision was out of their hands. The jury deliberated for hours. Musk's nerves were on edge. He couldn't help but replay every moment of the trial in his mind, wondering if they had done enough to sway the jury. Had they presented the evidence clearly? Had they connected all the dots? The longer the deliberation dragged on, the more Musk's anxiety grew. Finally, the doors to the courtroom opened, and the jury filed in, their faces serious. Musk's heart pounded in his chest. Judge Harmon stood. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood and nodded. We have, Your Honor. He turned to face Musk. We, the jury, find the defendant, Elon Musk, not guilty on all counts. Musk felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was quickly followed by a rush of adrenaline. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. Hargrove had lost this round, but Musk knew that there would be more challenges ahead. As the jury filed out, Musk stood tall, his team gathering around him. He had won, but the scars of this fight would stay with him forever. There would always be someone waiting in the shadows, ready to take another shot at him. But for now, he had emerged victorious. And he wasn't about to let anyone take that from him. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs of disbelief as the jury delivered their verdict. Musk had been acquitted, but there was no elation in his heart. As he stood there, listening to the gavel strike in his favor, the weight of the battle still pressed on him. The victory felt hollow, like winning a battle but losing the war. There was still a long road ahead, and though Hargrove's attempts to ruin him had failed, Musk knew that it wouldn't be the last time someone would try to tear him down. The room began to empty, the jurors filing out, the reporters gathering their notes, and the prosecution team slinking out in defeat. But Musk, Maria, and Ben stayed behind, allowing the moment to settle, even if it was brief. The tension in the air was thick, but there was a sense of finality about it. Maria placed a hand on Musk's shoulder. You did it. We did it. He nodded, his face expressionless. Not yet. This battle is over, but I know there's more coming. Hargrove won't give up just because we won today. This is just a setback for him, not the end. Ben, ever the strategist, leaned in. We need to prepare. There's no doubt he's already scheming his next move. We can't rest on our laurels just yet. The fight may be over in the courtroom, but there's still a lot of fallout coming. Musk didn't respond immediately. He stared down at the legal documents on the table before him. Everything had been meticulously planned, everything had led up to this. Yet, something about it felt incomplete. His mind wandered back to Hargrove, to the shadowy figures in the background, and to the strings of corruption that still ran deep within the system. This trial might have ended in his favor, but it wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. As they exited the courthouse, the cool evening air hit Musk like a splash of cold water. His thoughts continued to swirl. The city around him felt almost surreal, people going about their business as if the storm had passed, when in reality, the calm was merely the eye of the hurricane. Musk couldn't help but wonder if this trial had been part of a bigger scheme. Hargrove's connections ran deep, and Musk knew he wouldn't let something like this go without a plan to retaliate. But he couldn't afford to get distracted now. He needed to keep pushing forward with his projects, to stay focused on Tesla's future and his ultimate goal, making the world a better place. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was an email from Ben. "Musk, we need to talk about next steps. I've already got some leads on a new angle for us to pursue. I know you've got your hands full with Tesla, but this is important. Call me when you can." Musk tucked the phone back into his pocket, not ready to dive into the next chapter just yet. But he knew it would come, and when it did, he would be ready. The next morning, Musk found himself at his desk in the Tesla offices, going through the endless files and reports that demanded his attention. But his mind kept drifting back to the trial. He had won, yes, but at what cost? The stress, the media circus, the personal toll, it had all left its mark. But there was no time to dwell on that now. The future of Tesla was at stake, and he was determined to see it through. He picked up his phone and called Ben. "What's the angle you want to discuss?" Ben's voice came through clearly. "I've been digging into Hargrove's other ventures. We know he's connected to some shady deals, but there's more. I've got sources inside some of his business operations, and there's a pattern that's emerging. This could be bigger than we thought." Musk sat up straighter in his chair. "What pattern?" "Financial mismanagement, unusual offshore accounts, insider trading, it's all pointing to something far more dangerous than just a corporate rivalry. I think Hargrove's entire empire is built on a house of cards. And it's starting to crumble." Musk's mind raced. "Keep me posted. I'll have my team look into it. If he's truly playing with fire, we need to be ready to expose it." "Agreed. I'll send over what I have so far. We're digging deeper, but it's only a matter of time before the full scope of this comes to light." Musk hung up, the weight of the situation beginning to sink in. The trial had been a setback for Hargrove, but it seemed that his real vulnerability was just beginning to surface. Musk wasn't just dealing with a corporate rival anymore, he was dealing with someone who had built an empire on lies, deception, and possibly worse. The stakes had just gotten much higher. The rest of the day passed in a blur as Musk worked through meetings, responded to media requests, and made strategic decisions for Tesla's future. Despite the victory in the courtroom, his mind was never fully at ease. His thoughts were consumed with Hargrove and what his next move would be. Later that afternoon, Maria and Ben both arrived at Musk's office, their faces serious. Maria spoke first. "We've received some intel about Hargrove. It seems like he's trying to rally support for a new initiative, one that could directly challenge Tesla's growth in the electric vehicle market." Musk leaned back in his chair. "What kind of initiative?" Ben chimed in. "He's working with several high-profile investors to launch a new electric vehicle company. From what we've gathered, they're positioning themselves as the true innovators in the EV space, claiming that Tesla's approach is outdated and inefficient." Maria added, "They're planning a public rollout within the next few months, and they have a significant amount of capital backing them. If we don't act quickly, they could pose a real threat." Musk didn't hesitate. "Then we need to act faster. If they want to challenge us head-on, we'll show them what true innovation looks like." The team immediately began formulating a plan to counter Hargrove's new initiative. They would need to leverage Tesla's existing advantages, its reputation, its technological breakthroughs, and the sheer scale of its operation. But Musk also knew that he couldn't rely solely on what he had. He needed something new, something that would propel Tesla even further into the future. Late that night, after everyone had left the office, Musk stood alone by his desk, staring out at the city skyline. His mind raced with possibilities, with ideas, with the one thing that could keep Tesla at the forefront of the electric vehicle revolution: autonomy. Musk had always believed in the future of self-driving cars. He had invested millions of dollars into the technology, and now was the time to push it even further. If Hargrove wanted to challenge Tesla, Musk would use autonomy as his weapon. The next day, Musk called a meeting with his top engineers and designers. "I want you to double down on our self-driving tech. We're going to accelerate development like never before. If Hargrove wants to fight us, let's give him something he can't touch: our future." His engineers nodded, eager to take on the challenge. For Musk, this was more than just about winning a legal battle or defeating a corporate rival. It was about changing the world in a way no one else could. And with Tesla leading the charge, the future would be his to shape. But deep down, Musk knew that the fight was far from over. Hargrove was still out there, plotting his next move. And Musk wouldn't stop until he had dealt with him once and for all. The days following Musk's courtroom victory were filled with a sense of temporary peace, but Musk couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Hargrove's defeat in court had been humiliating for him, but Musk knew that a man like Hargrove wouldn't give up without a fight. He had to be preparing something far more dangerous than anything that had come before. Musk had always been an optimist when it came to his companies, but now the stakes had shifted. It wasn't just about technology or market share anymore, it was about survival. Hargrove wasn't just an adversary in business. He was a shadowy force lurking behind the scenes, with a network of connections and resources that Musk couldn't even begin to understand. And if Musk wasn't careful, that could be his undoing. Musk sat in his office late one evening, his fingers tapping restlessly on the desk. His thoughts were clouded, his usual laser focus now diverted toward the storm he felt brewing on the horizon. Tesla was on the brink of launching its next-generation electric vehicle, a model that promised to revolutionize the industry. But what if Hargrove decided to derail that too? A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Maria stepped in, looking serious as always but with a hint of concern in her eyes. "We've got something." Musk raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" Maria closed the door behind her and sat down across from him. "It's Hargrove. We've been tracking some of his financial dealings, and it looks like he's been buying up a significant amount of shares in other tech companies, including some that are in direct competition with Tesla. And here's the kicker, he's been funneling money through shell companies to make it all look legitimate." Musk leaned forward, his interest piqued. "So, he's building alliances behind the scenes, using his losses as a cover for something bigger?" "Exactly. It's not just about trying to outcompete us anymore. It's about positioning himself as a powerful player in Silicon Valley. If he consolidates control over a few key companies, he could undermine Tesla from the inside." Musk's mind raced. This isn't just about electric vehicles, then. He's trying to control the future of technology itself. And if he can get people to doubt Tesla's viability, he'll have the power to reshape the industry. Maria nodded. "That's what we're afraid of. He's already got some major investors in his pocket, and he's pushing them to spread doubt about Tesla's future. It's a slow burn, but it's working. People are starting to question whether Tesla's current growth strategy can keep up with demand." Musk's jaw tightened. He had known that Hargrove's defeat in court wouldn't be the end of his plans. But to use Tesla's own success against him? That was a new level of deviousness. The next few days were a blur. Musk's team worked tirelessly to trace Hargrove's connections, trying to piece together the puzzle of his empire. Meanwhile, Tesla's engineers continued to refine the self-driving technology that Musk believed would be the key to their future. But even as they made breakthroughs, Musk couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping through his fingers. He called a meeting with Ben and Maria to discuss their next steps. "We need to accelerate everything," Musk said, his voice sharper than usual. We can't afford to let Hargrove's whispers of doubt take root. I want to launch our next vehicle ahead of schedule. And I want it to be more than just a car, it needs to be a statement. Ben raised an eyebrow. A statement? Yes. We need to show the world that Tesla is not only leading the electric vehicle market but also leading the charge into the future. The car should be a glimpse of what's possible with the full integration of our autonomous driving technology. We can't just build a car, we need to build the future. Maria spoke up. And what about Hargrove's plan? Do we have any idea what he's going to do next? Musk looked out the window, his gaze distant. He's a dangerous opponent. But we'll outthink him. He's underestimating us. If he's trying to manipulate the market and destroy our reputation, we'll hit him where it hurts, the stock market. We'll prove that Tesla is not just a car company, but a tech company. A company that's innovating on every front. Ben nodded slowly. So, we double down on innovation, then? Exactly, Musk replied. We'll make it so that Tesla isn't just competing in the market. We'll make it so that anyone who tries to challenge us will be left scrambling to catch up. The pressure of the situation began to mount as the weeks passed. Musk was constantly on the move, working with his engineers, legal team, and marketing specialists to prepare for the upcoming launch. Tesla's new vehicle, a fully autonomous electric car, would be the most advanced vehicle ever created, and it needed to be perfect. Every detail had to be flawless. There was no room for error. But even with all the work that had been done, Musk couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had taken hold of him. Hargrove was always lurking in the background, pulling strings, manipulating people, and working behind the scenes to discredit Tesla's progress. Musk knew it wasn't just a corporate battle anymore, it was a fight for the very soul of the tech industry. As if to add weight to his concerns, Maria approached him late one night with more unsettling news. We've received an anonymous tip-off. Someone from inside one of Hargrove's companies reached out to us. They claim that Hargrove is preparing a major move, something that could seriously shake up the market in ways we haven't anticipated. Musk's pulse quickened. What kind of move? Maria hesitated. We don't have all the details yet, but it seems like he's planning to launch a new venture that involves mass data collection. It's not just for cars, it's for everything. He's trying to create a new type of ecosystem that would rival Tesla's software infrastructure. Musk stared at her, his mind racing. So, he's creating something that could replace our entire software platform, and he's going to integrate it into all sorts of devices. It's not just about cars anymore, he's aiming for total control. That's what we're hearing, Maria replied. It's going to be a direct challenge to Tesla's energy grid and our entire connected ecosystem. If he pulls it off, he could have a monopoly on all things tech-related. Musk stood up, pacing the room. We need to move fast. We can't wait for him to make the first move. We need to preempt it. Let's start developing a new vision for Tesla, something that will make this new venture of his look like a relic of the past before it even gets off the ground. Maria nodded. We're already working on a new strategy. But we need all hands on deck for this. Time is not on our side. The weeks stretched on, and Musk's sense of urgency grew. The new vehicle launch was only the beginning of the battle to come. Hargrove wasn't just a rival, he was a storm that would sweep everything in his path if Musk wasn't careful. The weight of the world seemed to rest on Musk's shoulders as he prepared for the inevitable clash of two competing visions for the future. But Musk was ready. He had built Tesla from the ground up, and he wasn't about to let anyone destroy everything he had worked for. Hargrove may have been a formidable opponent, but Musk had something more: vision, determination, and a relentless drive to innovate. And as long as he had those, nothing could stop him. The pressure was reaching a boiling point. Musk had been working around the clock, overseeing the final stages of Tesla's new vehicle launch and dealing with the increasing challenges posed by Hargrove. Every day felt like a sprint, each moment consumed by the relentless drive to stay ahead. But as the stakes grew higher, the sense of urgency morphed into something darker, something that could either elevate him to greater heights or leave him with nothing. The corporate world was shifting beneath him, and Musk could feel the tremors. Every time he thought he had gained ground, Hargrove would appear in the background, pulling strings, manipulating people, making calculated moves that threatened to dismantle everything Musk had built. It wasn't just a rivalry anymore, it was a game of survival, and Musk was deep in the trenches. He sat at his desk late one night, staring at the reports on his screen. Tesla's autonomous vehicle was ready for launch, but Musk couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. The market was reacting with hesitation. Investors were getting jittery, questioning whether Tesla could sustain its momentum in the face of rising competition. And all of it was due to Hargrove's manipulation behind the scenes. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was a message from Ben. "Musk, I've got something. We need to talk, urgently." Musk's heart skipped a beat. Ben had been digging into Hargrove's dealings for weeks now, and the fact that he was reaching out like this meant something major had surfaced. Musk immediately called Ben, pacing back and forth in his office as he waited for the call to connect. "Ben, what's going on?" Ben's voice was tight, urgency dripping in every word. "I've been tracking Hargrove's movements even more closely, and I think I've found his endgame. He's not just trying to undermine Tesla, he's positioning himself to take control of the entire industry. I've discovered that he's working on something big, something we haven't seen before." Musk's pulse quickened. "What is it?" "I don't have all the details yet, but it looks like he's developing a new AI platform, one that could leapfrog anything Tesla's working on. It's an integrated system, not just for cars, but for energy grids, smart cities, you name it. He's building something that could dominate not just the electric vehicle market, but every facet of technology." Musk felt the weight of Ben's words sink in. Hargrove was going after more than just Tesla's market share, he was targeting the future of technology itself. The implications were massive, and Musk knew that if Hargrove succeeded, it wouldn't just be a defeat, it would be a revolution that left Tesla in the dust. "How soon is this coming to fruition?" Musk asked, his voice steady but filled with determination. "From what I've been able to gather, it's already in development. He's trying to keep it under wraps, but the investors are already on board. If we don't act fast, we might not be able to catch up," Ben said, his tone laced with urgency. Musk took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision before him. "All right. Get me everything you can. I need to know exactly what we're up against." Ben agreed, and they ended the call. Musk sat in his office, staring at the city skyline as his mind raced. Hargrove was playing a game of scale, creating something that could overshadow everything Tesla had worked for. But Musk wasn't about to back down. This wasn't just about one company anymore, it was about preserving the future of technology, innovation, and progress. And Musk was determined to ensure that the future didn't belong to Hargrove. The next morning, Musk called an emergency meeting with Maria, Ben, and the rest of his senior leadership team. The room was tense as Musk laid out the situation. "Hargrove's new AI platform is the real threat. We've always known he was a formidable opponent, but this is next level. He's trying to reshape the future of technology, and we can't afford to let him get ahead," Musk said, his voice filled with the gravity of the moment. Maria nodded, already on edge. "We've suspected something like this, but the scale of it, it's huge. It's not just about electric cars. If he pulls this off, he could dominate everything from autonomous vehicles to energy grids and smart cities. The implications are enormous." Ben added, "I've been looking into it, and it's clear that Hargrove has the backing of some very powerful players. He's got the funding, the infrastructure, and the connections. If we don't act now, we'll be playing catch-up forever." Musk's mind raced with ideas, trying to map out a response. "We need to move faster. We can't just innovate on our own terms, we need to accelerate everything. I'm talking about a total game changer. We need a new vision for Tesla, something that will make Hargrove's AI platform look obsolete before it even gets off the ground. Maria looked skeptical. A new vision? We're already working on the next-gen electric vehicle and our autonomous driving tech. What's this new vision you're talking about? Musk stood up, pacing the room as the wheels in his mind turned faster. We can't just focus on cars anymore. Tesla needs to become a fully integrated ecosystem. We need to take everything we've learned about energy, AI, and autonomous systems and create a platform that can adapt to every part of a person's life. From smart homes to smart cities, we need to make Tesla the backbone of the future. And we need to launch it in the next 6 months. Ben raised his eyebrows. That's incredibly ambitious, even for you, Musk. I know, Musk replied, a fierce determination in his eyes. But we don't have time to wait. Hargrove's playing for keeps, and so are we. If we want to remain the industry leader, we need to think bigger than just cars. Tesla has to be the platform for the future. I'm not just talking about vehicles. I'm talking about a network that integrates our cars, our energy products, and our software into a seamless, intelligent ecosystem. Maria leaned forward. And how do you propose we do this? We start by expanding our autonomous driving technology into other areas. Energy grids, smart homes, and even public infrastructure. We use AI to create a new ecosystem, one that makes every aspect of a person's life smarter, more efficient, and more sustainable. And we'll build it faster than anyone thinks possible, Musk said, his voice tinged with a sense of urgency. The room fell silent for a moment as everyone processed the enormity of Musk's plan. This wasn't just a new product or a new market. This was a complete paradigm shift, a new way of thinking about technology and its role in the world. And it was clear that if anyone could pull it off, it was Musk. Maria broke the silence. All right. If we're going to do this, we'll need the best minds in the industry. We'll need to form new partnerships, and we'll need to move faster than ever. Agreed, Musk said. We're already ahead in some areas, but we need to push everything to the next level. We'll leverage everything we have, our cars, our energy products, our AI, and our autonomous tech, to create an ecosystem that can't be beaten. Ben leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowed. It's going to be a fight. But I'm in. Musk smiled, a glint of determination in his eyes. We all are. Let's go change the world. As the meeting concluded, Musk felt the weight of the decision settle over him. The stakes had never been higher, and Hargrove was more dangerous than ever. But Musk was prepared. This was no longer just about a battle between two companies. It was about securing the future, not just for Tesla, but for the entire world. And Musk wasn't going to let anyone take that future away from him. Tesla's next-gen vehicle was ready for launch, and the team was working tirelessly around the clock. But Musk's mind was preoccupied with far greater concerns than just cars. The future of technology, and possibly civilization itself, was at stake. Hargrove's moves were becoming increasingly clear, and Musk knew that the stakes weren't just about being the first to market with an electric vehicle anymore. This battle was about dominating the future of AI, energy, and autonomous systems. Musk had no choice but to take his fight to the next level, even if that meant pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Musk sat in his office late one evening, the city lights casting long shadows across the floor. He stared at a map of the world pinned on the wall in front of him, red pins marking strategic locations around the globe where Tesla had major operations. Each pin represented a piece of a larger puzzle, Tesla's global expansion into energy grids, autonomous driving infrastructure, and smart city solutions. But right now, all Musk could see were the black holes in his plans, places where Hargrove's influence might already be lurking. He had to act fast. Every second that ticked by, Hargrove was gaining more ground. Musk had already made the decision to accelerate the rollout of Tesla's integrated ecosystem, but now it was time to counteract Hargrove's moves directly. Hargrove's new AI platform was a game changer, but Musk wasn't going to let it go unchallenged. He needed to create something that would make it irrelevant before it even saw the light of day. Musk grabbed his phone and dialed Ben's number. The connection clicked, and Ben's voice crackled over the line. "Musk, what's up?" "I've been thinking," Musk said, his voice steady but determined. "We need to move faster. I want to launch a new initiative, something that directly competes with Hargrove's AI platform. We can't just sit back and wait for him to dominate the market. We need to show the world that Tesla is the real innovator." Ben was silent for a moment. "Are you sure we can pull this off? Hargrove's AI is no small thing. It's going to take every ounce of our energy to even come close to matching it." "I know," Musk replied. "But we don't need to match it. We need to leapfrog it. Tesla has already shown the world what we can do with electric cars, and we've proven that we can lead the way in autonomous driving. Now, it's time to take the next step. We're going to create an AI-powered ecosystem that integrates everything we do, vehicles, energy, infrastructure, and more. It will be seamless, adaptive, and impossible for anyone to replicate." Ben paused, the gravity of Musk's words sinking in. "So, we're talking about creating an AI that doesn't just power cars, but also energy grids, homes, cities, everything?" "Exactly," Musk said. "We're going to push the boundaries of what's possible and show the world that Tesla isn't just a car company or an energy company, it's the future of the world's infrastructure. We need to build the platform that connects everything, and we need to do it faster than anyone thinks possible." The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Musk assembled a team of Tesla's best engineers, data scientists, and AI experts, pushing them to develop an integrated platform that could rival Hargrove's vision. The pressure was immense, but Musk thrived under it. His mind raced with possibilities, each idea building on the next, as he worked tirelessly to shape a vision for the future that no one had ever seen before. Tesla's new platform would be an ecosystem that seamlessly connected every aspect of a person's life. It would be powered by advanced AI that could learn and adapt to individual needs, creating personalized experiences in everything from transportation to energy consumption. But Musk knew that he couldn't just rely on his existing technology, he needed to innovate on every front. One key component of the platform was going to be Tesla's new energy grid system. Musk had always been passionate about renewable energy, and he knew that the future of the planet depended on transitioning to clean, sustainable sources of power. Tesla's new grid would not only provide power for homes and businesses, but it would also be fully integrated with the company's vehicles. The grid would use AI to predict energy usage, optimizing consumption and ensuring that every household and business had access to affordable, sustainable energy. It was a revolutionary concept that would put Tesla at the forefront of the global energy market. But there was more. Tesla's autonomous driving technology was already world-class, but Musk had a vision for taking it to the next level. The new platform would integrate Tesla's cars with smart city infrastructure, creating a network where vehicles, traffic systems, and urban services work together seamlessly. Traffic would be optimized in real time, energy use would be balanced across the city, and every aspect of life would be enhanced by Tesla's advanced AI. It was an ambitious plan, but Musk was determined to make it a reality. He knew that if Tesla could pull it off, it would be the ultimate countermeasure to Hargrove's moves. It would make Hargrove's AI platform look like a primitive, outdated system, and it would cement Tesla's position as the leader in the race for the future. The weeks turned into months as Musk's team worked around the clock to bring the new platform to life. The pressure was relentless, but Musk knew that they couldn't afford to stop. The clock was ticking, and every day that went by brought Hargrove closer to his goal. Tesla's new platform was beginning to take shape. The energy grid was being tested, and the autonomous driving systems were being integrated with smart city infrastructure. Musk could already see the potential. If everything went according to plan, Tesla would not just be leading the electric vehicle market, it would be redefining the future of technology itself. But Musk knew that they couldn't do it alone. He needed to bring in more partners, more investors, more people who believed in Tesla's vision. The challenge was enormous, but Musk was confident that if he could make the world see what Tesla was building, they would have no choice but to support it. As the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Musk prepared to unveil Tesla's new vision to the world. The stakes had never been higher. This wasn't just a new product launch, it was a declaration of war against Hargrove and his plans to dominate the industry. Musk was ready to fight back, and this time, he was going to do it on his own terms. The day of the unveiling arrived. Musk stood at the front of a vast conference hall, his team behind him, each of them nervously checking their devices, ensuring everything was in place. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, investors, industry experts, and journalists from around the globe. The eyes of the world were on Tesla, waiting for Musk to reveal what he had promised would be the most ambitious technological leap of this century. A huge screen behind him flickered to life, showing a sleek Tesla vehicle gliding through a futuristic cityscape. No roads, no intersections, just smooth, seamless travel powered by Tesla's new integrated AI platform. The imagery was hypnotic. It wasn't just about cars anymore, this was a vision of a future that Musk was determined to make real, one that promised to revolutionize everything from transportation to energy to urban living. Musk took a deep breath. His heart raced, but his expression was calm. He had prepared for this moment for months, and he knew that it wasn't just about showing off what Tesla could do, it was about demonstrating to the world that Tesla was the future. That there was no room for anyone else at the top. He turned to the audience, his voice steady as he began. Today, we are not just unveiling a new product. We are unveiling the future. The future of transportation. The future of energy. The future of cities. We are introducing the Tesla integrated ecosystem, a vision where everything works together, powered by the most advanced AI the world has ever seen. A system that adapts to your life, optimizing your energy usage, your transportation, your home. A system that learns from you and for you. One where every aspect of your life is smarter, more efficient, and more sustainable. The room fell silent, everyone hanging on his every word. Musk had a way of commanding attention, he was an architect of the future, a visionary with the uncanny ability to make the impossible sound inevitable. We're not just making cars. We're changing the way the world works. Imagine a world where energy consumption is optimized in real time, where your car, home, and energy grid work together seamlessly. Imagine a world where traffic no longer clogs our cities, where smart cities are powered by clean, sustainable energy, and where artificial intelligence leads the way to a future that benefits everyone. This is not science fiction. This is Tesla. As the last word left his mouth, a new video started playing on the giant screen behind him. It showed a Tesla electric car autonomously navigating through a futuristic city, interacting with everything around it. Traffic signals adjusted in real time based on the car's location, while the energy grid managed power consumption to ensure the car was always fully charged and ready to go. The video was impressive, but the true power of Tesla's new system lay in the integration. It wasn't just about cars or energy, it was about an ecosystem that could revolutionize every aspect of modern life. For the first time, Tesla was showing the world how it planned to compete with Hargrove's AI platform, and how it planned to outpace him. But the true challenge wasn't about convincing the world that Tesla's vision was viable. The real question was whether Musk could make it happen in time, before Hargrove had a chance to execute his own plan. As the video concluded, Musk stepped back to let the impact sink in. He could feel the weight of the room's attention, the pressure mounting with each passing second. This was it. The moment that would decide Tesla's future, and possibly the future of all technology. Now, I know some of you might be thinking that we're trying to do too much. That this is too ambitious, too complex. But let me remind you, every great leap in human progress has come with a challenge, a belief that the impossible could be made possible. That's what we do at Tesla. We make the impossible possible. He paused, locking eyes with the crowd. And we are just getting started. Backstage, Maria, Ben, and the rest of the leadership team stood in anticipation, watching the live feed on their phones. They knew the weight of the moment, and they could feel the tension building as the world watched the unveiling. Musk had delivered his speech with his usual flair, but now the real work would begin. The technology would need to be implemented, the partnerships would need to be solidified, and the market response would determine whether they could actually pull off the grand vision Musk had laid out. Ben leaned against the wall, his brow furrowed. It's bold, even for Musk. But it could work. If we can pull this off. We will, Maria cut in confidently. There's no turning back now. We've got everything we need to make this happen. Ben nodded but still looked uneasy. We might have the tech, but Hargrove isn't going to sit back and watch us change the game. He'll retaliate. He's already got his own AI platform, and I'm willing to bet he's not just going to let this slide. Maria's face hardened. Hargrove has no idea what we've got in store. He's been playing checkers while Musk's been playing chess. We're ahead of him. Now it's time to prove it. Outside the conference hall, the media frenzy had already begun. Musk's speech had sent shockwaves through the tech world. Reporters were scrambling to get their statements, and investors were flooding the stock market with buying orders. Tesla's stock price surged, and the company's competitors began to react. The race was on. Hargrove would be watching, and Musk knew that Hargrove would be quick to respond. Musk's phone buzzed on the podium, interrupting his thoughts. It was a message from Ben. Hargrove's reps just issued a statement. He's not pleased. The game is just beginning. Musk's lips curled into a small, confident smile. He had expected nothing less. But it didn't matter, this was no longer about Hargrove's games. This was about Tesla's future. Let's see what you've got, Hargrove, Musk muttered under his breath, as he walked off the stage, ready to face whatever came next. The days following the unveiling of Tesla's integrated ecosystem felt like a whirlwind. The world had reacted exactly as Musk had anticipated. Investors poured in, the media buzzed, and everyone from Silicon Valley to Wall Street to the far corners of the globe was talking about Tesla's vision for the future. But even as the company basked in the glow of its success, Musk couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was just around the corner. Hargrove wasn't going to take the challenge lying down. Musk knew this. And as predicted, the media frenzy quickly shifted to focus on Hargrove's response. A press conference was scheduled for the following week. Hargrove stood in front of the cameras, his usual calculating expression plastered on his face as he addressed the public. His words were sharp, measured, and calculated to strike back at Tesla's ambitious claims. The world knows that technology, when unleashed without proper oversight, can bring chaos, Hargrove stated coldly, his eyes never leaving the camera lens. While Tesla may try to convince the public that it is the future, it is in fact racing towards a future of chaos, one where AI dominates without regulation, where the consumer is at the mercy of a company that controls everything. We will be introducing our own systems with transparency, fairness, and human oversight. The real question is whether Tesla's vision of the future is one you can trust. Musk watched the press conference unfold on his phone, his lips pressing into a thin line. He knew that Hargrove was framing Tesla's ambitions as reckless, casting doubt on Musk's plans for unbridled AI integration. The strategy was clear: paint Tesla as dangerous and unaccountable, while positioning himself as the voice of reason. But Musk had something up his sleeve. He had known from the beginning that Hargrove would attempt to play the moral high ground, and Musk's team had been preparing a response that would deflate Hargrove's argument before it even gained traction. As Musk walked into the Tesla boardroom that afternoon, the tension was palpable. He could feel the weight of the moment in the air, the stakes of this battle hanging over them all. Ben, Maria, and the other key members of the leadership team were already seated, eyes focused on the large screen at the front of the room. On the screen, a new message appeared: breaking, Musk to counter Hargrove's criticism at upcoming press conference. Musk smiled, a knowing look crossing his face. It's time to go on the offensive, he said, sitting down. We need to make it clear that Tesla isn't just another tech company, we are the standard bearers of the future, and if Hargrove wants to play the role of a villain, he's going to regret it. Ben looked up from his tablet. What's the plan? We show the world exactly how our ecosystem works. We show them the innovation, the benefits, and the safety measures that we've incorporated into every step of our platform. We expose the truth about how Hargrove's system is just a glorified version of outdated tech. Maria leaned forward, her expression eager. We can release the next phase of our platform ahead of schedule, show them the AI's impact on real-time traffic management, energy optimization, and how our system enhances lives every single day. Musk nodded. Exactly. Let's show the world that our vision is more than just a concept. It's a reality. We're already putting it into action, and it's working better than anything Hargrove's platform can offer. Ben gave a sharp nod. And we make it clear that we're not just building products. We're building the future. A future that's smarter, cleaner, and more connected than anything anyone has ever imagined. Musk's mind raced, thinking of the next move. He was ready for this final confrontation. There was no room for hesitation anymore. With Tesla's systems fully operational in key cities, Musk knew it was time to expose the world to the sheer scale of their success. The press conference came faster than Musk had anticipated. His team had spent the last few days fine-tuning every detail of the presentation, ensuring that it would be flawless. And as Musk took the stage in front of a global audience, he could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This wasn't just another corporate launch. This was the defining moment of his career. As the lights dimmed and the screen behind him flickered to life, Musk's calm voice rang out, resonating with confidence. You've heard a lot from Hargrove about safety, about transparency, and about accountability. But here's the truth, Tesla's AI system isn't just a product, it's a revolution. It's a revolution that's already changing the way people live, the way cities operate, and the way we think about our future. The screen behind Musk showed real-time footage of a Tesla car driving through a bustling city, seamlessly interacting with traffic lights, optimizing routes based on real-time data, and ensuring energy efficiency by connecting to the grid. It was mesmerizing, an intricate dance of AI, data, and human ingenuity working together in perfect harmony. Musk continued. Our AI is not an abstract concept, it's already here, working for real people in real cities. It's optimized for safety, for efficiency, and for sustainability. We don't need to wait for the future, we've created it. The camera cut to footage of Tesla vehicles in a smart city, with energy grids, traffic management systems, and autonomous vehicles all operating as one unified network. People walked through the city, interacting with smart infrastructure, and Tesla cars glided effortlessly through traffic, all of it powered by clean, renewable energy. It was a picture of harmony and progress, exactly the kind of world Musk envisioned. He turned back to the audience, his eyes gleaming with determination. While Hargrove stands on the sidelines, playing it safe, we at Tesla are taking the risks necessary to push the world forward. And we will not stop. Not now. Not ever. As he finished, the room erupted in applause. The message was clear. Tesla wasn't just leading the race, it was defining the future. And anyone who stood in its way would eventually be left behind. Backstage, Ben and Maria watched the feed, both of them grinning. Musk had done it, he had delivered the knockout punch, and there was no turning back now. Ben let out a deep breath. That's it. Game over. Maria nodded, but her expression remained focused. Not yet. Hargrove will have his response. We're not out of the woods just yet. Musk walked off the stage, his face serious. It's only the beginning. The real battle is just starting. But I'm ready for it. Let's finish this. As the press conference ended and the world buzzed with excitement over Tesla's new revelations, one thing was certain, the future had been irrevocably altered. And Musk knew that the war was far from over. But in that moment, as he stood in the midst of all the chaos and uncertainty, he felt a sense of calm. He had put everything on the line, and now the world would have to reckon with the consequences. Tesla was no longer just a company, it was the future, and no one could stop it. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?